Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Hey, you know that guy who just before the green flag keys up his mic and asks, "Anybody got a setup?" Well, this is him. This is Adam, and hey, Adam needs some help. On the other hand, this guy over here, this is Steve. Steve is a solid racer and he knows his way around the garage. Steve's problem is time. With a job and a family, he can't find enough time to build competitive setups and to race as often as he likes. But as luck would have it, Steve knows a secret. He lets the Majors Garage crew chiefs do the setup work, so he can focus on the racing. At majorsgarage.com, Steve can get setups for over 60 cars on the iRacing service. So no matter what series he wants to jump into, he is covered. Anybody really should tell Adam. See you at the garage.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV this Sunday morning for those of us here in the in this part of the world in Australia. As of course Saturday night for those of you in America. It is the Atlantic region of the Majors Series, the 9th round of the 2024 championship. This is the Triple Crown Wildcard, the round where the two regions both have different tracks, but drivers from either region can race in either event. Here in the Pacific region, we have Auto Club Speedway. Atlantic is going to be racing at Pocono Raceway in the Dallara IR18 IndyCar. Of course, this is the first year in a couple of years that IndyCar has been back on iRacing and able to be broadcast. And we already had a pretty classic Indy 500 earlier on in the year. Now we get to race them again here in Fontana, California. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. It's me, Reese Gardner. partner, Lynn Kinchelow, is with me in the comms box with Jay Kennedy on the buttons behind the scenes in the producer's chair. And, well, Lynn, this is a bit of a blast from the past, or at least it's becoming one. Auto Club Speedway, not exactly long for this world in this form.
Unfortunately, it is also already been demolished.
Yeah.
Some unfortunate. It's unfortunately been demolished. This is a site of what was originally a steel mill, where the famous film Terminator 2 was shot. But take a look at the satellite image from days of yore. It's a 2-mile speedway at this current configuration. Take a look, and we're going to be racing on the oval, and it's big, it's wide, it's fast, and also very bumpy with a worn-out surface. So you're going to be seeing these cars going all over the place. They'll be trying to do 3 wide, sometimes even 4 wide, and if they run out of room, look out. These cars are not going to be able to break away that easily.
No, certainly not. Auto Club Speedway, in this form on iRacing, the form that it took until very recently, is a classic, I think, in terms of IndyCar tracks. It's so wide, it's so fast. The fastest, the highest average speed ever reached in an American open wheeler, I believe, was set here by Gilles de Ferran. So, this is an absolutely fantastic circuit that should provide some incredible racing. And we're going to be racing for 250 laps around here, which is going to be hard work for the drivers. I mean, you're flat out for the most part. You're turning left, but that's only a part of it, isn't it?
It's just one part of it. And to make matters even more wild, instead of having qualifying beforehand to set predetermined grids, we have 46 cars currently signed in at this point, and they're going to have a total of 4 qualifying laps to set a time. They take their best lap, and the top 30 or so will get to stay on the server. The remainder will have to divert down to a second split. So there's an opportunity for some guys to suddenly pop off a quick time, get themselves locked into this top split. There's also a chance for disaster. If you can't string together one clean lap, if you're in the championship fight, it's going to be disastrous if you don't make this top split.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Speaking of the championship, here are the standings. Christian Challoner is in the lead and has been pretty much the whole season, has put on some brilliant drives in especially the more recent previous rounds. Dallas Pataska and Ross Banfield will be trying to chase him down here with just a couple of rounds to go in the 2024 season. Pataska and Banfield, of course, very close on points, only 17 separating them. Justin Morton and Nathan Dowd, 13 points separating them, so 4th in the championship could possibly change by the time we come out of this round. And down at the bottom of the top 10, it is ever closer. Daniel Stevens has got some margin over Ryan Steele, but Nick Kuhn is right on his coattails there. In the Legends standings for drivers over 50 years of age, Daniel Stevens is 34 points ahead of Wayne Hutchison, with Gav Barber trailing behind in the top 3. Very close between the two Bryans, Barnes and McGreevy. Brian Bennett a little bit further back there. A trio of Bryans in the middle of the top 10. And aside from that, it looks like the points are quite large in terms of gaps. In terms of the team standings, well, Mega Racing team with Christian Challoner at the helm is certainly right there in the lead and has very little pressure from Dog Bear Bark as things stand. But, you know, a bad result for all of Mega Racing team's drivers may potentially bring them into strife in these final couple of rounds of the season. On board here with McCrelly in the 614, we see just how fast Fontana is. This track incredibly wide, and you know, the draft is paramount here, Lynn, as we'd expect.
Yep. When we get going here in the feature of the race, you're going to see a lot of these guys being able to make big slingshot passes, being able to just toe up right up against a guy, shoot out either left or to the right, try to make an overtake happen, but at the same time, take a look at these speeds with 345 kilometers an hour, easily into the 220 mile an hour range as Abade comes into the pits. Just 90 kilometers an hour down that pit road, and it's a very long pit road, by the way. But still, you may think this track is wide, but at these speeds, it's like interstate traffic. Everybody's going to get bottled up, and if there's no place to go, you're going to have a really rough time of it.
Yeah, you certainly are. You're allowed to, I believe, go down below the white line there on the front stretch, but everywhere else you have to stay above the white line there. Justin Morton setting a few laps on his way up to fourth in the practice session with 4 minutes to go. Plenty of space, of course, around this circuit for recovery if you're involved in a crash, but you'll want to hope that it happens a bit lower down and you're sent down low, because the wall, of course, is right next to you on a lap around this place. Bruce Jones is currently on top in the practice session, 31.902. Not too far ahead of Robert Northway, who seems to be having a good time here in second place. We're going to be seeing a little bit of wheel work here from Jones, I believe. He's right on the rev limiter, and we'll see what happens here in the middle of turn 1 and 2. Whoa! I mean, it looks kind of pedestrian with that field of view, but trust me, that is a very scary incident to have with the rear end twitching out at those high speeds.
Yeah, these cars have a multitude of adjustments that you can make on the wheel. Most likely what happened there is that he had his weight checker, which adjusts your right rear perch up or down. If he has it too far up, that can induce an oversteer condition on the exit of the corner, and if that rear tire is angry, it will snap around on you and sometimes you're lucky to catch it just like he did. The other tools that you have at your disposal will be roll bars. One change that has happened in between the Indy 500 and now, I should say Speedway 500, I apologize, is the roll bars no longer can be adjusted in the middle of the corner while those bars are loaded up. What that means is that some people will use the roll bars as their primary method of adjustment instead of the weight jacker. So that is actually a bit of a nerf, since you see some cars scrambling around in the background. So there's been some tactical changes that you have to make to your set to be able to accommodate that change. So you might see some guys try to move the bars up or down between front stretch and back stretch. Other times, you might want to change your weight jacker in the middle of the corner.
Yeah, indeed. So that's it's going to be a difficult adjustment. You know, I'm not the most familiar with IndyCar on the technical side of things, so the weight jacker is still very much a mystery to me. But you're basically tuning whether or not you have oversteer on entry or exit, to my understanding, and that could be very important, especially in the later stages of a stint when the tires start to wear down. Yes, tires will be a factor here. This track is wide, fast, high banked, and you're flat out the whole way around, but those tires are still put through the ringer around here.
Yep, and perhaps even more important than the tires is aerodynamics. These cars are extremely susceptible to what they call the aero push. If you try to follow behind a guy on the straightaway, you'll get a nice big draft. But if you go down into the corner trying to expect the same thing, nope. Your car is going to go pushing up the track, and especially early on when we're going to be all bunched together, that could be very, very dangerous. You could just trigger a server clearing wreck if you're not able to keep up with the adjustments. One thing that you can do to compensate is either adjust your line either to the left or to the right of the car in front. You could also move your weight jacker forward to try to counterbalance it mechanically, but just remember to set it back once you get around it or you find a different lane to run.
Yes, clear conditions out there with 30 degrees Celsius on the track surface. So reasonably warm, pretty middle of the road as far as iRacing track temperatures go, which is good to see. Should be nice and expected for the drivers. There's the Imperial for everyone in the United States, 86 Fahrenheit out there on the track surface, 15-mile-an-hour winds coming from the west, so that could potentially affect the drivers on their qualifying laps. As we go into qualifying, where every driver gets 4 laps to set their time for the grid, should highlight that, as always, the Majors is supporting charities. Drivers can purchase extra qualifying laps in the lead up to this event, and the proceeds from all of that all go to the chosen charity for that respective round. This round, it's the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. Support them at autisticadvocacy.org. A foundation founded by and run by autistic people, working to make society more inclusive for people with autism, working to make sure that autistic people are in control of their own lives and have a say in policies that affect them. Their slogan being "Nothing about us without us." They work to empower autistic people across the world to take control of their own lives and the future of their common community. Make sure to, again, lend your support at autisticadvocacy.org. And a big thanks to the Majors crew for supporting various charities like ASAN across the course of this 2024 season. Well, we're out in qualifying now, Len. And drivers on their outlaps getting ready to start things off here. We're going to ride with Stephen Bowayan here on his first lap. And once again, you're seeing just how fast these cars are. They'll be trimming the cars all the way out here in this qualifying session. They want that maximum speed. And, well, in the race, they might try to tune the downforce a little bit more for more stability. But that's not the name of the game right now.
Yep. Big difference between the Speedway 500 and today. We don't have the extra boost that you would get for Speedway 500 qualifying, so you have what the power you had in practice is the power that you have here. So all of your adjustments are going to be in the wings. Lower front wings, probably right around -1 degrees, maybe, which does generate a little bit of lift, but at the same time, the underfloor of the vehicle is producing so much downforce that you might as well try to trim it out. The rear wings, I've seen anywhere from -0.5 degree to flat with no whippers at all. So look at Stephen Harper right here. A lot of different lines are being taken in this qualifying session, as the current pole time right now is a 32.391. Wayne Hutchinson currently sitting on top of the board right now. The other thing to keep in mind, it is 4 laps total, but you can spend those laps however you please. If you want to go out and run 1 lap, hard hit, make an adjustment, go out and run 1 more, you can do that. If you want to run 2, then run 1, sure. If you want to run all 4 at once, hey, that's perfectly valid as well.
Yeah, indeed. And I did notice that Daniel Stevens in particular decided to pull over after his first lap was complete, and currently out trying his best to improve on that time, as we have more times coming in now. Robert Northway putting himself into 8th spot, just ahead of Justin Morton, with Nick Kuhn at the top of the standings so far. Only a few hundredths of a second in it between Nick and Wayne Hutchison. Meanwhile, Christian Challoner, championship leader, currently in 5th spot, looking to improve. We'll have to wait and see what he can do here across the line. He's looking to beat a 32.4, and he manages to get ever closer to beating it there. That gives him 3 spots, gets up into the top 3.
Oh, go ahead, Reese.
I was just going to say that the cutoff for top split, which is the race that we are broadcasting, is 28. So if you're 29th on back, you'll be racing in 2nd split. So we've got to keep an eye out on that section of the field.
Right now, that bubble time is a 32.484, currently held by Brian Scrivener. Joshua Mertz jumps up the board past the 28th position. Now Lottridge is on the bubble. Scrivener is the one sitting outside currently. The bubble is at a 32.475. Look at Robert Northway. Looks like he's on an outlap to this particular point. And let's take a look at his line real quick. He's going to go arc it all the way right down to the bottom. Get as close to that white line as you can get without touching it, because it's a little slippery. It's old paint. Right down the middle of this back straightaway. Keep it away from the wall to avoid the drag. Right back on the yellow line, trying to get as much as he can. Ooh, he's touching that line. And then in qualifying, it's perfectly allowed. You can go run right on the apron. Across the line, that lap was a 32.615?
415. That manages to put him up into 9th place. Yeah, so it looked a little bit squirrely for Northway on that lap, and it looks like it's even more squirrely for Scott Kukas. Oh dear. He's well outside the bubble for getting into top split, and it looks like that's going to be another opportunity gone for him to get that done. Big shame for him. Brian Barnes, meanwhile, has not set a qualifying time yet. Still waiting on a time from Ernie Ludwig as well. So pretty much all of the drivers now have set at least one lap to get their time on the grid. It looks like Ross Banfield in particular only needed one, really. He's set a single lap. Other drivers that have only set a single lap in qualifying are Ryan Steele in 3rd, but he's looking to try and get another lap on the board. Only one lap from Sebastian Jackson, Ray Partridge, Stephen Paulison, and Christian McCrelly, who we were riding on board with briefly in practice right at the start. Everyone else has set 2 or more laps in qualifying. We'll see what Brian Barnes can do here as he's coming through turn 4 now. Try and dip it all the way down to the bottom. He's not taking the apron on the way up to the line. This is going to be a 32.452, and that puts him in 25th place. He is within the bubble for top split.
And that just proves that everybody has a different idea of what to do. Some people, like we saw before, you can run down on the apron, but that upsets the balance a little bit. So if your setup is a little bit more on edge, trying to make that transition might cause you to wipe out, as we look at Scott Kukas at a 32.742. Don't think that's going to do it for him. Just bounce it to the field looking for cars to look at. Everybody gets a piece of the track to themselves. Ray Partridge running right down on the white line. Currently, he's number 6, so he's relatively safe. I think we're out of cars that can conceivably bump him from here, so he's safely locked in, and looks like he's going to bail out of that lap. Take a look at Stephen Paulison, currently P31, previously was on the bubble, now he's out. Needs to find a 4.57 or better. Speaking of 4.57, there's actually 2 cars currently sitting at that time. Stuart Elder in P27 is just barely beat Damian Colte for that current lap time. And Stephen Paulison bumps up to a 32.451, barely gets in. So there is not an inch of real estate between Elder and Colte for that final position.
Yeah, I wonder at these speeds what 1,000th of a second looks like between 2 cars. It's probably less than an 1/8 of a car length or something like that. Ernie Ludwig, meanwhile, setting a time good enough for 35th position. Currently, the slowest lap time of all is Brett Trosen, a 33.3. So, yeah, it goes to show that things are a little bit more spread out when you get from 28th place on back. Ross Banfield, meanwhile, he's out on another run here, and 32.417 is the time he currently sets, and we'll see if he can improve and get into the top 10. Drivers just on the bubble are getting into the top 10, wanting that little bit of extra time. Down to the bottom we go, all the way up to the top of the rev range in 6th gear, and a 32.397 will be his next time. Bumps him all the way up to 4th spot. That was a massive improvement.
Yep, and this is currently the only vehicle still running out here. This car makes the most amount of power as he backs off right there when it's right at the edge of the revs, so that's when it's flashing blue. So that's a very good lap from Ross Banfield. A good shot in attempting to take the fight to Christian Challenger, who is at a 32.401. And it looks like everything has settled down. It is 25 seconds to go in this qualifying session. It is too late for anybody else to go out and start another lap.
Yeah, so we can have a look at our top 6 here before we bump over to the full race grid. Nick Kuhn for Dog Bear Bark is your pole sitter, and it was only 0.02 of a second in it between himself and Ryan Steele. But tell you what, Dog Bear Bark looking very successful here in qualifying, locking out the top 3 spots. Well done to Nick Kuhn, Ryan Steele, and Wayne Hutchison there. Go through our proper grid now with Kuhn and Steele on the front row of the grid, 0.019 in it between them. In third place, Wayne Hutchison. He's got the 777 of Ross Banfield for company to round out the second row. Christian Challenger, the championship leader in 2024, is going to start in 5th place alongside Brian McGreevy for UDOX Lola, only 1,000th in it between them. 2,000ths between Ray Partridge and Timothy Klaus on row 4, with Brenton Foster and Gavin Barber in 9th and 10th.
Continuing on, we move to the next row. We find ourselves with Robert Northway and Sam Harper in that 11th and 12th starting positions right there. It's taking time to get there. We got to feed another quarter to the machine to keep it going. Next row, 13th and 14th belong to Mike Wagner and Justin Morton. You look, just a very small gap between the first and that particular row. Sebastian Jackson, Greg McCaney in row number 8. Row number 9, we find Joseph Holman for the UDOX Frank team, the junior team for the UDOX squad, and Jake Fox starting alongside in 18th. 19th to 20th is occupied by Phil Otto and Dallas Pataska. A very, very slow qualifying effort. It's going to be a bit of a hole for him to dig out of for this qualifying session. Dan Stevens is back here in 21st alongside Christian Abadi in 22nd. Continuing on, we're running out of vehicles. Joshua Mertz and Jason Lottridge make up row number 12. Continuing right along, we find the Mr. Popsicle Man, Brian Barnes, in 25th, alongside Stephen Paulson in 26th. And the very last row, the very last vehicles to get into the main game for split number 1, Greg Tillison and Stuart Elder rounds out our field of 28 race cars.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, now it seems like we have 29 cars starting in the race here. Damien Colty has been allowed to start the race here because he set the exact same time as Stuart Elder there in 28th position. Interesting to note that Troy Anderson in car 38, who qualified 35th, is still in the server. I'm not sure if that's allowed. He's just come to a stop. I think race control has just informed him that he is in fact not eligible to start the Split 1 race. So best of luck to Troy, starting in the top 7, the top 10 there for Split 2, as we continue on with our Split 1 field behind the pace car. Halfway around the formation lap now, and it's 28 degrees Celsius now on the track. Remember, we are going into the night here at Auto Club Speedway, and well, it's sunset conditions. It means that the track is going to keep cooling down as time goes on. That will affect how drivers manage the tires from this point towards the end of the race. Waiting for the call of the green flag. Lights are out on the pace car, and we'll be touring into the pits momentarily. We'll see which of those Dog Bear Bark cars is going to get the best run off the start here. Nick Kuhn should have the advantage starting in P1. He'll be able to control the start from here. All the field is together, and he puts the power down. Barney waves the green flag, and we are away for the wild card of the major series here at Auto Club Speedway. Good start from Nick Kuhn and his teammates behind, Hutchison and Steele, trying their best to hold on here. Hutchison's gotten the position over Steele. Ross Banfield is already on the move. He's just gotten into the top 3.
nice clean start at this particular moment. The field spread out a little bit at this point. Everybody has enough real estate to play with, so these vehicles are definitely going to be able to get up to speed on these cold tires. Sunset is in about 45 minutes in sim time, and the speeds are only going to climb from here.
Banfield's getting some good runs here. I'm also seeing a bit more momentum from Christian Challoner in the 78. We'll see what he can do to try and work his way forward. Christian sticking down low here in the slipstream of Banfield to try and catch up to the top three. Also seeing some charges forward down the back stretch from Gavin Barber, who suffered a little bit of tyre scrubbing in turns 3 and 4. He's going to fall back behind Justin Morton. This is such a difficult part of the race here when everyone is all together and you see packs starting to form. There's not much room if you make an error.
Yep, if you're the car on the inside and you start pushing up the guy on the outside, you have to get on the binders to be able to avoid contact. But are you going to have enough room behind to be able to get on the binders? It's going to be a case of catch-22 for some of these guys. Looks like Banfield has gotten himself out to the lead all by himself as we ride on board with Gavin Barber in the top 12 right there. And he looks forward and he sees there's really nowhere to go for him right now. If I had to wager, I think he's in the lower fuel map to save a little bit of gas. We're looking at about 42 to 45 laps on a stint of fuel. So about six pit stops for certain, maybe 5 if there's a lot of saving in the back. But Banfield, not wanting to take any risk, he's scooted off to about a 0.2 of a second lead right now.
Yeah, Banfield with an excellent run off the start of the race as the 5th lap begins. Nick Kuhn still staying behind him as we keep an eye on this middle of the top 10 pack. Brenton Foster in the yellow car there losing a bit of time, scrubbing the tyres a bit down low for Mega Racing Team. Big run around the outside for Ryan Steele. He's going to get alongside Christian Challoner just in time for turn 3, but Challoner with the faster line around the circuit geometrically managing to get a run up into the top 4 as things stand. It looks like our top 4 cars all sticking to the inside. Not too sure how the line situation is going to work, whether or not we're going to be seeing a push from drivers on the high line this early on. When the tyres are fresh and the track isn't fully rubbered in, potentially the lower line is going to be the faster one, but drivers who want to preserve their tyres will start running a lane or 2 up.
Yep, and some of these guys right here, you see 3 wide. There was a little bit of 4 wide action just a little bit ago, but still plenty of space in between the vehicles right now. Starting another lap number 6. Look at, oh, looks like McGreevy.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, and that's going to be a server clear. Caution comes out. Look at all of these vehicles left, right, and center getting destroyed.
Oh man, Brian McGreevy will be absolutely fuming at that. Nick Kuhn in the 27 pushed up into him and tapped him around, and so that looks like it's collected quite a few cars. Wayne Hutchison and Ryan Steele in particular. Christian Challoner may have gotten a tiny bit of damage from a slight tap. Justin Morton involved as well, and Greg McEnany and Sebastian Jackson also involved, potentially more. There is the move down to the inside. Kuhn pushes up, and yep, round goes McGreevy and collects the wall, and that resulted in quite a bit of spinning all the way down the field. So drivers that have escaped back to the pits from this one: Ryan Steele, Wayne Hutchison, Brian McGreevy, Sam Harper involved as well, Mike Wagner and Justin Morton. Dallas Pataska and Stuart Elder are touring through the pit lane at the moment to try and take advantage of this caution period, maybe top up their cars, repair some damage if they've gotten it. I think it might be a little too early for tyre changes as things stand, but first caution of what may be many on our way to the finish here at Fontana. Let's see this replay then. We don't usually see a static cam on replay, but this will be an interesting sight indeed. Oh,
Just
goodness.
Look at all of the cars scattering everywhere. Does the camera even survive this one? Because you see cars bouncing up into the catch fence, one jumping over the other. What is this? Is this Dukes of Hazzard? I know they filmed out in California, but oh boy, who let the Duke boys out?
Goodness me. Yeah, the general was present there. Well, that has taken out a good portion of the field. And we're seeing a raft of pit stops in the midfield. Nick Kuhn, of course, coming into the lane, potentially to get some damage repaired. Challoner, Foster, Pataska. We have basically everyone from Dallas Pataska on back having come into the pit lane at the moment. Race Control currently reviewing the incident, and judging by what we saw triggered the incident, I think a penalty might be coming Nick Kuhn's way.
Yeah, at the same time, I know I'm technically biased since I am an unorthodox motorsports driver on the Atlantic side. I could see that going 50-50 because, yes, Nick Kuhn pushed up into McGreevy, but at the same time, there's a whole car width and a half up to the third lane that was being used, that wasn't being used. So I think you could make a case that both of those guys could have had saved a little more room. Nick Kuhn obviously gets away relatively unscathed, perhaps needing a wing change at that particular point, but the end result either way is 11 meatballs out of a field of 28 in one collision. Yes, goodness. You get spare cars in this event, so those drivers will be able to jump back into a different vehicle, fully prepared, able to continue on with the event. But at the same time, it was lap 8, and now you're having to go another 460 miles on essentially your last vehicle. This is one of the cars that if you get too much damage, you will not be allowed to participate further. So, as we also have a mechanical issue of a different sort, Sam Harper has dropped internet connection, which is unfortunate, but lucky that it happened under caution because that allows him to have an opportunity to get back in.
Yeah, and maybe he'll have enough time to jet back up to the back of the field. He's currently 3 laps down on our leaders. Man, yeah, you're right. The drivers that had to use their spare car this early are going to be in big danger, and I think they're going to be giving each other and everyone else a very wide berth as things go on. For those of you interested in fractions, at the end of this lap, we will be 1/25th of the way through this race. I mean, that is a long time to be driving with potential for your next crash being race-ending. And of the drivers that have used their spare car, we can confirm our championship leader, Christian Challoner, is one of them. Remember, he ran into the back of Nick Kuhn when that incident came about. Green flag flies, and now the intensity will draw back up. Banfield is going to lead the way across the line with Robert Northway in second. Challoner down in 7th spot as things stand. Seeing some moves forward here off the line, and well, the yellow flag is immediately back out. Oh dear, something else has happened here. Looks like a big problem for Damien Colty, and seeing Craig Tilson as well down the bottom of the circuit. Not sure who else was involved in that, but cautions, breeding cautions very early on.
Once you get the replay, you'll see exactly what happened here. Somebody got a little overeager on the restart, even though it is a single file. Tried to duck down to the bottom and got a little too far down. We'll take a look at it right here. We'll go watch the Colty machine right here. Take the restart. Barely gets legal. You are allowed to overtake to the right normally on the restart before the start finish. That was barely legal on the left side, but speaking of left sides, tires on the apron, not a good sign, and that takes out another 2 race cars right there.
Yeah, that's not good there. Craig Tilson, who Colty ended up running into there, has already used his spare car, so I think that might be the end of the race for the 990 of Craig Tilson, driver from Middle Finger Racing that we rarely see. So That's a real shame there for Craig. His race is over before it even really got started. This is the onboard view of him up behind one of his teammates. It looks like there was a bit of a check up ahead. That's what allowed Damien Colty to get alongside him. So we're looking from the car behind at the moment. Tilson's on the right, Colty's on the left. You see him catch the apron and oh, wow, okay. Yeah, that is Tilson we were riding on board with. You could see that there was no time to react.
Yep, that's one of those, if you don't have your sixth sense dialed in, and you're at this early on, you're not going to have it dialed in that well. There's not really anything you can do in that situation except hang on to it. Unfortunately for Tilson, having already used a spare car, it looks like his suspension on several corners has been severely damaged, and those are the parts that iRacing will not let you repair normally. So that may be game over for Tilson as we see more vehicles coming to the pit lane. And it looks like Banfield has taken the opportunity to hit. On that restart, there was only 5 that stayed out. All 5 of them have come in. They are now cycled back into about the 13th position.
Yeah, indeed. Tilson and Colty as well. I mean, they're just stopped in the lane at the moment. It looks like Jake Fox falling down the order a little bit there. I'm not sure exactly what happened to him. I think he had an internet issue. Damien Colty has been given an end-of-line penalty by race control for that one, but considering that Colty has been in the pits and potentially out of the car for the last 3 minutes, I don't know if he's going to be able to come back out and really serve that end-of-line penalty. So, yeah, already quite a few casualties from this race.
Yep, same thing as for Colty as it is with Tilson machine. Multiple corners destroyed on that car. If he has his spare car still, he would have an opportunity. He does have a spare, so he will be able to get back out, but he will be several laps down because he had to take a tow. The vehicle didn't really want to go anywhere. As we ride on board the pace car with Mr. Fred Jones of NASCAR Racing Legends Yore. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away for some of us old-timers. Taking a look back, Christian Challenger, Sebastian Jackson, Phil Otto, Jake Fox, and Christian Abate filling out your top 5. And I see a lot of hard chargers up here, just mostly because of the pit cycle, but still, I see it a very impressive plus 19 from 7th position, Stephen Paulison in that number 58 machine.
Yeah. And we're hearing that 15 of our 29 starters have already used their spare car. So this could potentially turn into a race of attrition as time goes on. Remember, we're only on lap 14 at 250. We've got a long, long way to go here. And if more than half of the field only have one car left to complete the race with, man, this is going to be tough for sure. Damien Colty has managed to come back out, and he will resume running at the end of the line as the pace car comes in, and Christian Challenger will lead us away for the second restart of this race. Looks a lot more orderly behind him now, and oh no, forget that, there's a crash at the back. Oh dear, what on earth is going on here? Looks like Justin Morton and Ray Partridge, 2 of the cars involved. There was a big checkup at the back of the field here. And Nick Kuhn getting a black flag from race control, I believe, for his part to play in the initial caution. But Partridge has managed to get back rolling. But Justin Morton, a victim of the checkup in the back of the field. And we're already back under caution here.
Taking a look at the replay real quick, I'm pretty sure Morton is also on that used spare car at this particular point. Just, that's a big jump in the air. It wouldn't surprise me if that right front is absolutely destroyed for Morton. At the same time, for Partridge right there, 37, also on the spare used list. Everybody's just going through cars like it's nothing. Like, what? Like, are we just running mini stocks over at Current or something?
Yeah, I'm getting those vibes. 3 cautions in the first 15 laps, and you can see Justin Morton's not happy with how this has gone down for him. It just seemed like everyone in that sort of lower midfield was getting going very slowly, too slow for Justin Morton's preference.
When it gets like this in officials, since there is no restart zone for IndyCar races, there's one thing I would like to see happen. This is just me throwing ideas out into the ether. What the leader could do, they could back up off the pace car as far as they really want to and not get a penalty. So what would potentially be good is let that pace car walk off a little bit and then dive into the pits and then try to restart the race further back, because what ends up happening is the leader holds station until they get to where Barney manually throws the green. That's where you get all of these accordion effects, and there's no place to go because you can only pass on the right, and a lot of these guys are just not going to go away from the wall just to get past on the track. So the only direction you're going is you're going to get smacked in the face.
Yeah. Oval restarts certainly not easy at the best of times.
And look, it's a big IndyCar thing too, guys.
Hello, Scott Rankin.
Are actually significantly greater in the IndyCar as well, because the acceleration's greater compared to the other oval cars as well. This is my area of expertise. You guys are actually wandering down my pit lane at the moment. So the big thing is it's just maintaining the speed. You see it right across everything that we do. Is when you're in a pace car queue, and I always talk about this. I think Reese has heard me made this spiel, I think, a good 7 or 8 times now. But when you're accelerating to catch the cars ahead, no matter what the format, you accelerate gradually, and you need to know what the pace car speed is, and you never go 15 Ks is about my limit above the pace car speed, right? And you accelerate and slow down gradually, and you have to get your eyes 1,000,000 kilometers down the road. And I mean as far as you physically can. If I'm reacting to the car ahead of me, I'm in it. Forget it. I'm wrecking that guy every day of the week. If I'm reacting to the car 4 cars ahead, I'm aware of the checkup well before it happens.
Yeah, very good point. Welcome to the commentary box, Scott Rankin. Of course, plenty of experience in IndyCar racing, so good to have him on board here for this round of the Majors Series. And man, it's been a chaotic one so far, hasn't it, Lynn? We are 3 cautions in. We haven't even completed 20 laps of this race. I'm just glad that this doesn't work like dirt oval racing, where caution laps don't count.
Yeah, especially here when we would be probably still working lap 5 or whatever the first caution come out. But at the very least, we are clicking laps away, and everybody has had one opportunity to come down pit road. Currently, looks like we have 21 cars on the lead lap. Northway is the very last vehicle on the lead lap, as the lights are out on the pace car one more time, as the field migrates their way towards the high side, again to defend their outside for the restart. A couple of cars to note. Nick Kuhn still has a penalty that he needs to serve under green. And we're still looking at Paulison with the hard charger award at this particular point, P7.
All right, get ready for the green flag. Hopefully we get a solid run of green flag laps in here. Christian Challoner leads us away as the sun continues to set over Fontana, California. Already a move to the inside from Christian Abate. Going to try and get past Jake Fox. But there's always a problem behind. Daniel Stevens, Stephen Paulison, and Dallas Pataska right with them as well, as the pull to the apron from Justin Morton, end-of-line penalty for Justin, and it looks like he's might not have taken that penalty initially under caution. We'll have to wait and see on that, but the racing gets more intense as time goes on here. Stevens, Abate, etc., all in the potential zone for causing an incident, but our top 3 have broken away. Sebastian Jackson to the lead of the race. He's not fuel saving at all. He wants to try and get a lead out here. Challoner and Phil Otto with him, and man, the racing's starting to get intense. down in the lower reaches of the top 10. Joseph Homan to the inside of Christian Abate, but the outside line is where you want to be on the exit.
And that gap to the front nearly was a second. Now it's gone. They were able to get a draft from fourth on back, and that's going to pull them all the way back into a 7-car battle for the lead, as we have Jackson, Challenger, Otto, Stevens, and Pataska running out in the top 5. They get single file to start to negotiate around a lap car that's incoming, but further in the back, there's 3 wide for about 7th right here. One car slipping away. Here we are. This is the Abate machine right there. Yep. And Coleman on the outside has found his way to there. And the battle moves on.
Yeah, this is really heart and mouth stuff at the moment. You know, you feel like they're just a few moments away from a potential big incident here. The top 3 did have a bit of a breakaway, Scott, but it looks like they've decided, or the rest of the field have decided to catch up to them, and now we have a full-on pack throughout this top 10. And that lap car that Lynn was talking about, it's Nick Kuhn, who's just served that penalty for his responsibility in the first incident.
Yeah, so he's going to try and find a place to slot back in and pick up his spots as well. One of the biggest things, everyone looks at IndyCar racing on the left, everyone looks at NASCAR racing. Their first response is, oh, it's just over racing, it's just turning left, it's really, really simple. I think IndyCar racing is actually a lot more complex than NASCAR. And it comes down to reaction times. What you've got to think of is, as we cross this start-finish line, we're doing about 357 kilometers an hour. And for the guys at the back, when you get a nice setup like it looks like we've got here that creates really, really good pack racing, you end up being able to run 3 to 4 wide through the corners as well. So what happens is, right about now, everyone gets checked up. But when you're 4 to 5 wide, you can't take that run anywhere. The wall of cars, so what happens is one car gets that huge run, and he kind of can't take that run anywhere. So then he has to lift off the gas. So then the guy behind him lifts off the gas more. Then the guy behind him runs into the back of that guy because he just can't react in time. Right? So there's a couple of little things going on at the moment. The big one is tire wear. The high lane allows you a lot of room to rotate the car. And the tricky part about this circuit is you cannot stay at the very bottom of the circuit for a long period of time. And the reason for that is differentiated banking heats up the rear tires. The rear end can just come around on you. So you can be really, really careful. There's a car ahead of you. You'll understeer. You'll get that aero plow. So you're actually a lot better off. But still, you tend to want to stay away from the very bottom of the line here.
Yeah, you do. You see that there's not many drivers who are sitting all the way down on that white line. Run around the outside from Dallas Pataska here, all the way up the top. You see Challenger gaining behind in the red and white machine. Nick Kuhn, the lapped car, now still at the very front of this pack. The lead of the race in the hands of Sebastian Jackson in the white, orange and blue machine. Easy does it through turns 1 and 2. It's all a waiting game here. It's all about survival, especially, Lynn, considering we have more than the majority of the field having used their spare car already, and it looks like there's going to be a few more there, potentially. Dallas Pataska has been sent up into the wall, no caution. He's already used his spare car. So I think, Lynn, that might be the end of Dallas Pataska's race, depending on how damaged he is.
He's got a meatball currently at this point. I don't know if that was a big enough shot, though, to necessitate a retirement. You can get, even though, if you think he's done, okay, but that was a very big shot. It looked like the breathing might have gotten a little bit loose on the underside, bumped the car all the way down in the bottom lane, and maybe a little bit of an overcorrection right there. Let's take a look at it right here. Oink! And yeah, you look. If the server decides that you've broken the suspension, that it's going to wobble like that, he's going to need a wing for sure.
So, just I've had a quick look at that car. He has got an excessive amount of toe damage. It's not to the point where the wheel's pointing in the wrong direction, but that front right tire should be kicked in. It shouldn't be kicked out. The leading edge of that tire should be pointed to the left. It's pointed to the right. That will be a very, very long stay on pit lane. It isn't day done, but it's effectively done.
Yeah, well, unfortunately not day done for this green flag stint. It seemed like Phil Otto and Brian McGreevy came together down low, and that sent McGreevy up into Mr. Pataska. Well, we will move on because the race still goes on out there. Stephen Paulison with a run into third spot at the moment. This is looking very interesting indeed. Phil Otto's been sent all the way to the back thanks to his part in that incident that just happened. And now he has joined Nick Kuhn as the two lap-down cars that are in the lead pack.
And this is where it gets really dangerous right here because, yes, Nick Kuhn is a lap down, so is, looks like the preview was a couple laps down, but again, Nick Kuhn is entitled to attempt to fight to get this lap back. He has been hanging around the front, but this car is physically not for a position. He's just taking the lane up for everybody else. As he squeaks out by himself, we take a look on board with Dan Stevens. From his view, in the actual sim grid, in his room, look at that. Yeah, it's a very cool grid that he's got right there. Just riding around a 6th gear, and I can't quite make out what fuel map he's in. Scott, what do you think he's running for a fuel map right here?
Just looking at things and based upon the amount of gain he's making on the pack, I'd say he's about a 3 to 4. So 1 to 5, 1 is your full rich, 6 and 7 are also full rich as well. But 3 to 5, 5 is the most green flag fuel saver. I don't think he's using 5. I think he's using some of the immediate ones because he needs to stay with the pack, but he's not making a lot of ground. And you're right, he's leaving it in 6th gear at the same time. And look at, swings high, this is to maintain momentum. And the clean air, that lane as well. Just look at the way that he's attacking the car. Dan ran a lot of the Fixed India Australia series just recently and was quite happy, quite comfortable in the car. And I think he actually had quite a strong finish in that series from this track. I'll take all bets to who won that race though.
Yeah, of course, we are graced by the presence of the winner of that race in the commentary box. Yeah, if you want to talk IndyCar racing, talk to Scott Rankin.
Oh no, I've just been threatened with my least favorite video on the internet.
Oh dear. We'll see if that pops up later on in the broadcast. As wow, I mean this pack's been going on for quite some time, hasn't it? Another reason you'll see drivers like Stevens running so high up is again to preserve tyres. Most of the field has, in fact, all of the field has come in for a pit stop at some point, but I don't know how many of them have put on a new set of rubber. It was still a little bit early for fresh tyres, but we are approaching that margin, Lynn, for a green flag fuel stint. Considering the cautions, I think we'll be expecting most of the drivers to go to around lap 55 or thereabouts before they start taking their first proper pit stops.
Yeah, the vast majority of the field is currently working about lap 26, 27 on their stints. There's a handful of cars that pitted under the previous caution that are about 22 in. So, like you said, about lap 50 is where we would be expecting cars to peel off and take 4 tires and a full tank of fuel. And that's why you see a lot of these guys not taking runs like Dan Stevens there just a little bit ago. Just riding around, trying to save as much fuel as you can. One of my favorite tricks is using fuel map 5 because it's right next to 6. And what Scott was mentioning, that's also a full rich setting, so I can just bounce back and forth between those and save quite a bit of fuel that way. But for the most part, everybody's just kind of holding station to just try to maintain fuel. I think the reason that they haven't kicked Nick Kuhn out of the pack just yet is just he's handy to keep there for something to push the air out of the way, save a little bit of fuel in that fashion.
Seeing from race control, it hasn't been, I think a little bit of a typo, hasn't gone to all the drivers, but I do see it from Garen Batten in race control. Car 013, Phil Otto, warning for driving standards. I believe that was for his part in the incident that has unfortunately taken Justin Morton out of contention here. Fortunately for Morton, Dallas Pataska was the car involved. Pataska is still in the pits at the moment, so that's a real shame for him. But yeah, Phil Otto is now aware that race control is watching him. And
Sam Harper's just lit the wick, guys. He's making moves at the moment. He's a lap down car. So we're just trying to take a huge run down the front straight away. Try to cut it through the middle three, but he sort of lifted at the last possible moment. But he's looking to take the runs now and press on.
yeah, looks like it. Harper is, definitely trying to work his way forward here. 3 wide at the front of the pack here. We've got McGreevy and Harper both lap down or more, and Sebastian Jackson up top here on the left of your screen is still the overall leader of the race. Phil Otto there running in second spot. And, we'll see what the drivers down the bottom will be able to do. For the most part, it's cars that are a lap down or more, those first 3 cars in line down the bottom that are off the lead lap. Sam Harper trying to be the spanner in the works, so to speak, and moving to the front of the pack.
You saw briefly Dallas Pataska has returned to the track. That car was not as demised as we previously thought, but you have to take a look at this battle up at the front. These 2 cars right at the front, Sam Harper and Brian McGreevy, they are at the tail end of the 1 lap down. If they get passed by the leader, they go back 2 laps down. They are hoping for some miraculous caution, as these guys are basically on the same pit cycle with the rest of the leaders, so they'd have to pit at the same time. So these guys are really putting a spanner in the works while they try to contest this, hoping for somebody else to take the boo-boo.
Yeah, it was a boo-boo for Brian McGreevy as well. Looks like he's been included in that warning for driving standards, originally just for Phil Otto. So, McGreevy and Otto were the ones who came together down the bottom and put Dallas Pataska in the wall there. Good to see that Pataska is back out on circuit now. He's quite a few laps behind our leaders, though, so we'll have to wait and see what he'll be able to do. Take advantage of cautions and try and get some laps back. There's no lucky dog or anything like that in IndyCar, so if you're a lap down, you're a lap down. You basically just got to fight your way back onto the lead lap. But the race has started to get up to a good pace now. We're seeing, sort of low 33s in terms of lap times for these cars, and rapidly approaching 1/5 of race distance here. For now, it's just a waiting game. The drivers trying to survive, keep their cars out of trouble before they make that call to come down to pit lane. And a green flag pit stop in an IndyCar, Scott, is certainly something to behold.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got bigger brakes, you got better brakes, you got more downforce there, and NASCAR certainly has. So the car pulls itself up really, really quickly. One of the big things that you can actually do in this car at some of the circuits whereby you need to slow down for the corners, you actually just lift off and you let the aero do all the braking for you. You don't need to touch the brakes sometimes. Just such as, the pocket of air that they're dragging themselves to. And think about the speeds these guys are doing. Just keeping an eye on Phil Otto, down to about 349 kilometers an hour in the corners. Not taking huge runs at the moment. Have a look at Gav Barber bouncing around. And that's worthwhile noting as well. This is the Fontana Racing Circuit, Auto Club. It is a very, very old racetrack. There are a lot of bumps. You can see all the patches that we ride around. So that jerking in his motion rig that he's actually going through, that's every time he hits a bump on the track, the rig moves around, the rig shakes. Because that's what your suspension's doing out in the sim, man. It's a wild old ride. The drivers, when they used to come here in NASCAR, always talked about how bumpy this place is. So Lewis Hamilton, I think, had back problems after this ride.
Yeah, probably need a trip to the dentist after as well. Gav Barber, of course, running that motion rig and, as you say, feeling those bumps all the way around. And, there's a car off down low. Got to make sure that he doesn't come back up onto the circuit. He gets on the brakes, though, and manages to pull it up. That's Sebastian Jackson, who was fighting for the lead of the race. He's made a mistake out of turn 4 and gone onto the grass. That's a real shame there for the number 87, and for me, it's unclear exactly what happened to him. It just seems like he had a little bit of a loose rear end coming out of turn 4 and couldn't quite recover it. Lost it in the tri-oval, the front stretch.
Yeah, so what happens with these cars is on the long run as that fuel burns out of the rear end, you actually want to use a little bit less jacker. So there's quite a few different bits and pieces that these cars change throughout the run. Sorry to cut you off, by the way. This is really, really important to an IndyCar driver's mindset. What you'll see here is, remember, we're talking about the different banking in that bottom line. Just touches the apron a little bit loose. He's just wandering all over the track. So the car's slightly loose as he comes out of the corner, and it wanders around just a little bit, enough to touch the apron. And again, flat surface versus bank surface, it just rotates the car. You can't afford to touch that. So it's a couple of different things. The weight balance of the car moves further forward in the car, which means the rear end rotates a lot quicker. And you want to use the touchless jacker. And if he's overheated the rear tires by using a little bit too much weight jacker, which props that rear end of the car up, makes the car turn, makes it so that these cars can actually race each other, even with all of the dirty air that they're receiving. And remember, high speeds, a lot of dirty air for these cars. The dynamic of this car changes significantly across the road.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that we saw that earlier in qualifying where they were able to use the apron. Some of the cars tried to dump down there to claw back just that extra thousands of speed. Some of them bobbled and lost a couple of thousands that way. But that resets the running order again at the front. Ross Banfield has worked his way back up to the front, working lap 37 on his stint. And he's got 4 lap down cars out in front of him. He can take it easy from here on out for the time being.
Yeah, certainly can. We saw Sebastian Jackson in the pits there, and he's been in there for a while, actually. That's longer than we'd expect for a green flag pit stop. He's finally managed to get it done. And this will set Sebastian Jackson on a bit of an offset strategy to everyone else. Look out for him potentially towards the end of the race, trying something different to try and get himself back up there. He will be, for sure, more than a lap down as things stand, taking that green flag pit stop. But hearing that something's happened to Dan Stevens as well. I'm seeing that his Zoom feed's frozen. I think he's had a PC issue. Dan Stevens might very well be out of this race. That is tragic. He was running so well.
Yep, quality is fading fast on his connection to the server. Eventually, at a certain point, it's going to give up. It's going to throw his car out, automatically send him to the tow, and that's going to be a very difficult thing to come back from. All these guys having issues. The key thing they want to keep in mind, they want to get to lap 125. That's when they pay out full points. So guys like Dallas Tasca, that's why they're coming back out, trying to run these laps. You get full points for getting... the 4 words you do not want to hear on a Windows machine. Blue screen of death. For Daniel Stevens right there.
Can we change that last word to Doom? Let's give up on the death. I like Doom better.
Yeah.
I'm just going with what it is the classical way.
I just like the word Doom better. I think it sounds good.
The gravy's around. That's going to bring out a caution.
Oh my goodness, and I saw a car up high in the air and upside down. It's Gavin Barber who's been involved in that as well. The caution is back out. Well, we've made it past lap 50, so I get the feeling literally everyone is going to come into the lane, apart from maybe our cars that were already a lap down. Barber already back into the pits there, and goodness me, I think you will want to see an onboard from Gav Barber's perspective. That was so scary. Brian McGreevy, he was down on the apron for some reason. I think he was preparing to take a pit stop, but he lost it. He ended up understeering, and that put him back onto the circuit a little bit, unsettled the car. Yeah, you'll see him run out here, and he just catches the grass. It sends him back up. He's back on the racetrack, and through goes Barber and up into the stratosphere.
And it reminds me of the collisions collision in a practice session here a few years back. We ride on board with the Barber machine. You look out just ahead, you see McGreevy sideways, backwards. That nose cone becomes a very big ramp, and bam, you are stuck at the fence.
That's got to suck for Gavin Barber, honestly, because I think did he have anyone to his outside? I'm not too sure. We'll see what happens here, but this might tell the story. As he goes up the racetrack, yeah, Barber had nowhere to go. There was a car to the outside of him.
So it seems tough, but what you're actually supposed to do in IndyCar here is you actually want to pit off of 4. So the only question I'd have, it depends. A lot of different bits and pieces come into this because these cars are designed for running on the bank and they're set for it, and they really do not like touching that flat old apron. And the apron's narrow coming into that section of the track, so unless sometimes for some of the circuits they'll literally go, okay, you must be down by this marker on the track and set what that marker is, and unless that's actually the case, you actually want to be on the racetrack all the way up until the pit lane entry. The difficulty is two things. Have to get to the bottom of the racetrack, so he's done that actually not too bad. He's put himself in a really, really good spot to do that. And number two is you kind of don't want to be pitting from the head of the field, because what happens when somebody doesn't read you? So generally call out the radios, a couple of different bits and pieces, but you can actually drive these cars for doing 340 Ks through the corners. You can actually drive them. The brakes are phenomenal. It's all the way until you get off of 4 before you have to lift. So, which gives a lot more room, and you'll actually see it as they come off of 4 here, that the pit lane entry sort of opens up. They do actually get quite a wide, right where those dashed lines start feeding off, and then it gets really wide just to the right-hand side of that camera shot right there, where you see those guys forming off. So there's actually a lot of space here at Auto Club to get down into the lane off of 4.
Yeah, so McGreevy, I think, maybe not following full procedure there, but all things considered, Scott, you did mention that he may have run out of fuel, so potentially the car just wasn't responding to his throttle inputs, and maybe he decided to peel off early just to avoid becoming, I guess, a bowling ball with all of the skittles coming up behind him. But I suppose the specific circumstances will remain a mystery for the time being. What isn't a mystery is that McGreevy's been given an end-of-line penalty for causing that incident. Meanwhile, pit lane has come alive, and we've had pretty much everybody, on the lead lap at least, come into the pit lane, and Ross Banfield will remain in the lead of the race. Challoner up to second. Paulison continuing his great run through the field, up 23 spots now. And good news if you're a Dan Stevens fan, he's managed to make his way back onto the circuit. He now runs 26th position. So all things considered, Lynn, having a technical issue like that, it usually puts you completely out of the running, and if you rejoin, you end up being dead last. But there's been enough problems for everybody else that Dan Stevens is still not last in this race.
In many ways, it is a blessing in disguise, because when you have a connection issue, the server just basically ignores you entirely. You don't get hit by anything, nobody hits you, pace car pulls off, and we're going to go again. Let's see what kind of restart we get out of Banfield. He waits until the very last minute. Green flag comes back in the air. We restart lap 55.
All right, across the line we go, and it's Banfield, followed by Challoner, Paulison, and Christian Abate, our top 4 that have gotten a good run off the start here. Timothy Klaus up into P5 and trying to catch up. Then once they're up to speed, they get up to 350 Ks an hour by the time they get to the end of the straight here. 3 wide coming through. That's further back in the field. For the time being, it looks like a pack starting to form here for third. We've got Klaus trying to chase down Paulison here, and Christian Abate right in the midst of all of that as well.
And something happened at the back end for Sebastian Jackson as well, who I think he had to jump on the brakes to prevent a check-up at tail end of the field, so he's going to not be a ball back to the pit lane, unfortunately for him. Difficult thing about restarts at Auto Club, because they are so flat out and we're maintaining speed for so long, generally being the leader here means you don't leave at the end of the first lap. It's so quick, and you actually want everyone else to get a good restart at Auto Club. If the guy behind you gets a bad restart, it's actually better for him, because he gets a lot more time in the draft to just slingshot by. You want him on your gearbox the whole way from going green. Can't get the run, can't get by.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see what happened to Sebastian Jackson here. He was up high, and we'll see the green flag fly up the front of the field. And what exactly went down here? Jackson gets on the power, but you'll see the checkup. It's happening. He has to jump on the brakes, maybe a little bit. Oh, okay. just tapping the brakes there, and the car veered to the right up into the wall. So front right suspension, Lynn, once again damaged there. That's such a shame for Sebastian Jackson. He was running so well before. Remember, he was fighting for the lead of the race before he had his self-spin.
Yeah, and sometimes all it takes is one little mistake. You get the yips, and then you start to try to claw your way back from that. I want to say, Scott, that he might have had his brake bias set too far back to lock up with the right rear. So perhaps what was working at the front of the field wasn't necessarily what he needed there at the back.
Well, for Auto Club, you actually don't set your brake bias for racing. It's for pit lane entry only, but the car doesn't pitch right like that. Generally, I tend to be, with my bias, I think it's, whatever the starting bias is, I'll get an opportunity to look at it.
57.2.
57.2. I think it's about 56% is about as far as I bring it down, because I actually want to feel, I would rather have a front lockup than a rear lockup around here, because you can undo a front lockup. You can't undo a rear lockup once the rear end of the car starts to come out. So I actually don't tinker with it too much, and you do not touch the brakes under normal racing conditions.
So so like right now, these guys would just be lifting off the gas pedal to save their fuel. Just not driving the brake at all.
They wouldn't even be completely out of the gas pedal. They'd be about a 30-40% at minimum, because the problem is with the turbos and the way that these cars are set up, you've got to keep them spooled up. If you don't get that initially on restart, one of the biggest things is getting the turbo spooled up. If you are lifting off of the gas right as you go for a restart, the turbo's actually not got any pressure building inside that turbo, jettisoning some air into that engine. So actually go backwards quite massive. So one of the biggest things with restarts is timing it to build that turbo pressure right at the right moment. So you really got to manage that. I do want to say a big shout out to this field though. There was a massive gap from about 10th spot back to 11th, 12th, and there's a couple of lap cars in there. Normally that's lights out. When those big breakaways sort of form, the second pack for a couple of laps doesn't work together. And by then they're 3 seconds down the road. You can't catch them. They've done a phenomenal job. Gavin Barber and Sam Harper have pulled this pack back to the leaders.
Yeah, they have indeed. Well done to all of them, and we now have our top 16 plus Barber and Harper all together on track as things stand. Paulison continuing to stake his claim in the top 5 as there's a run to the front of the pack here from Sebastian Jackson, who, remember, is a lap down or more, and he's going to be the cork in the bottle, so to speak. He's going to try and lead them on their way through. It's interesting to note that incident for Jackson. I think the reason he might have jumped on the brakes is because he was rounding up a car that was to the inside of him and probably didn't want to pass him before the start-finish line, because at that point he would have gotten an iRacing black flag. So
that's legal. You can pass on the outside. Yeah, you can pass on the outside, can't pass on the inside. So that's the issue, which is why with IndyCar, generally any single file kind of restarts on the oval, the reason they actually start against the fence is nothing to do with that's where they want to launch from. It's because you cannot pass on the inside. That's where you get a black flag. You can whiz around somebody's outside, no problem, but you can't pass on the inside, so that's why you start up against the fence.
Righto. So keep an eye out for that on future restarts, of which I'm sure there'll be at least a couple, considering the incidents that we've seen so far. Greg McEnany, meanwhile, he's trying to vault up the field here. Look at the sea of cars ahead of him. Unfortunately, he is not Moses, and he does not have the power of God on his side. The Red Sea will not pass for Greg McEnany. He'll have to try and stick in the draft here, but he's yet another one of those drivers who's staying in 6th gear in the pack, saving fuel, extending that stint. And that may pay off for him very shortly, as our potential next pit stops are not too far away, to thinking about 25 to 30 laps for a lot of these drivers. Gently does it on your way up through the top of the field. Timothy Klaus, the leader of the race, across the line on that lap. He and Challoner up behind Sam Harper and Sebastian Jackson. The 2 lap down cars, there's a bit of contact between Harper and Jackson. Harper was sent up high. It was only a small tap, but that could have ballooned into something horrendous. Jackson is going to lift off and go back into the pack here.
Which is like,
I don't know.
Go ahead, man.
I was going to say, yeah, I don't know. You say it was netcode. I don't know if that has caused damage to the Jackson machine. but that has momentarily allowed Harper to get back to the tail end of the lead lap. He leads the field over the overall race leader, Christian Chandler, and I'll give a tip of the hat to Timothy Klaus. He's been running the IndyCar iRacing series for the past year, and was doing really well in his division. So he's got a lot of experience around this car, as we have misplaced the Brenton Foster machine. He is manually disconnected from the server. That's going to be a very disappointing finish for him. If he doesn't get back to lap 125, I believe he's a flat 10 points for an appearance fee.
Yeah, Brenton Foster has already been in the pits for 10 minutes as things stand. I get the feeling he might have gone to meatball and was that unrepairable damage. I believe Foster, one of the cars that had already taken their fast repair after that big crash early on in the race. We've gotten some good green flag runs going here for the time being. Touch wood, don't want to see an incident now. For the time being, the fastest car on track was Christian Abate at 33.0. The yellow car here is Brenton Foster, and I believe this is the reason why we saw him in the pits. That's Gavin Barber to the inside. And remember, that incident that we saw earlier? Well, Brenton was the other car involved in that, and yeah, that's practically unrepairable from there.
That's basically writing off the tub in real life if that ever happens. Thankfully, it hasn't in quite some time, speaking of knocking on wood. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, looking in the middle of the field right here, currently looking at, I believe that is the Nick Kuhn machine. Yep, he is up to 9th position. He has managed to successfully get back onto the lead lap. He is back in contention. He has a shot to win this thing because, oh boy, if anybody in this pack is up here, they've got a shot.
Pole sitter Nick Kuhn, and now he needs to be careful trying to work his way through. And this is the question, isn't it, Scott? When you have that pace, when you know that you were the man who set the fastest time in qualifying and you're trying to work your way back up, you've got a pack ahead of you. At this point in the stint, do you lift off or do you commit? Do you try to run back up to the front?
So there's a couple points to sort of put into perspective here, and a couple of different things. For a guy like Nick Kuhn who's got enough experience, understands these sorts of things, this is exactly what's going to be going through his head at the moment. The more cars he passes, the more likelihood that if an incident happens, it's behind him. There's less risk for him as the race sort of progresses in that manner. Number two, what happens when the green flag pit cycles do actually start? And we will get them at some stage. We've got still about 180 laps left to run in this race. So that's a big thing to start to think about. Number three is, how far back is too far back? If you get caught out in the pack and all of a sudden there's some fighting and you drop off the lead pack, it's so much harder to get back up there, particularly as the tires start to wear. Number five, I think we're up to four, sorry. Number four is strategy-wise. I've got some fuel, I've been saving, I've really been doing things. Number five is tires. What am I thinking about? What am I trying to do? All of these bits and pieces are what he's measuring and judging for himself at the moment. There's definitely drivers out there he's faster than. There's definitely drivers he saves better tires than. There's definitely drivers he's better at fuel saving than. But he has to be in the right position to take advantage of those moments.
Speaking of tyres, weather conditions down the bottom right of screen, the track temperature has dipped below 30 degrees Celsius. And the sun has set, so we are looking at an ever more cooling racetrack that should result in a bit more tyre life. And if you've been running up the top in this stint, man, you're going to have a big tyre advantage right at the end of the stint. Pretty much all the drivers in the top 18 passed 20 laps into their stint, so we are in that second phase of the tyre stint, the fuel tank stint now. Question is, how hot are these tires? How much temperature will they be able to preserve at the end of the race, Lynn? We're looking at a race finishing in the dark on a very cool racetrack, and I think at that point the question becomes, can you keep the heat in the tires?
Oh, you'd definitely be able to keep the heat in the tires. They're in these corners for so very long. Meanwhile, crash, backfield, I believe that was the Jackson machine again.
Yeah.
Oh no. Yeah, caution's out. That's all gone wrong for Sebastian Jackson. Goodness me. And he's immediately escaped off the racetrack there. Sebastian starting 15th, and he was fighting for the lead early on. Looks like a problem down the front stretch. Not sure exactly what happened to him on the run into turn 1. Oh, he tried to dip down low, it looks like, to try and get in between Ray Partridge and Nick Kuhn, and he actually ran into the back of Kuhn a little bit. So that might have resulted in some damage further for Nick Kuhn, who we had just seen making such a great run back up to the front of the field. Look at Jackson here, up high in the multicolored machine, and there is the contact.
So Kuhn's doing to turn into the corner, and the car ahead of him is just sort of aero blocked him, is effectively what's happened. So Kuhn's lost a lot of downforce to the front end of his car at a critical moment of the turn-in phase. So he's trying to move a little bit higher to take advantage of that. At the same time, Jackson's coming down because Jackson's seen a hole in the air that hasn't been there. I was just watching Jackson for the last couple of laps. He's been looking for a hole about two-thirds of the way up the track, really. And that's the first time the hole sort of opened up, and he's gone, sweet, here's a hole, here's an opportunity to overtake a few cars, and Kuhn's just taken the hole as he got there. It's IndyCar racing, baby.
Yeah, certainly it is. Well, pit stops may or may not be happening here. Yep, the front of the field coming in. They've completed about half a stint. And I would expect everybody on the lead lap to top up their fuel tanks and go a little bit longer there. Let's have a look at this from Jake Fox. Meanwhile, the incident would have happened up ahead of him here. Fox was a long way back. Now, what happens here from this perspective? Staying up high and oh, okay. So Fox was involved in all of that, and you could see there, Lynn, the reaction time required to avoid that. I don't think Fox had it. You know, he could have dipped down low, but he might have induced a bit of scrubbing and understeered up into Jackson anyway. Regardless, that's not what you want to see, a car popping out from behind the car in front of you right when you're committed to the corner.
And a driver is of two minds at that particular point, because by the time that Jake had arrived on that scene, the caution had yet to come out. Any car that passed Jackson while he was wiping out right there. Hi, Fred. There's our pace car driver. Anyways, back to our main point. As the Jackson machine was spinning around, nobody was really around to automatically trigger that caution, so the track is still technically green. And Scott, you can attest to this. If the track is green, you're going to keep going. And at that particular point, you might be looking ahead to the incident in front, but at that same time, that Jackson machine had 3 or 4 wheels completely knocked off, and you can hold the brake all you want. In that scenario, it's still going to slide down the track.
There's nothing he can do, because, I mean, the other side of the coin is, you mentioned if he's got multiple wheels off the car, well, the brakes don't work so well. But once he's already lost those wheels, there's nothing he can realistically do. From Jake Fox's perspective, it'll actually come down to where is the car behind him. If the car behind him is actually a fair way off of him, I've got my eyes down the track. When I know that car's coming up the track, I'm abandoning. As soon as I see the car sideways, I'm abandoning the throttle. I need to give myself more time. The difficulty for Jake, because I just had a quick look back, there was one more car in behind him, which was Jason Lottridge. And if Lottridge just dipped low or covered his line off at the same time, it just sort of... You've got to keep your eyes that far down the track. But that little pack was sort of trying to set themselves up for the corner. And Lottridge did bail out of the throttle in behind him. Jake kind of didn't have much of an opportunity, but at the same time, the car ahead of him was trying to brake, and he was trying to avoid the car ahead of him, also avoid the car bouncing around. It's everything happens so quickly in an IndyCar. I cannot understate. We are doing in excess of 300 kilometers an hour. I think you cover 100 meters at 100 kilometers an hour about every 4 seconds. So we're doing that at a third of the time, realistically. So about 1.3 seconds is every 100 meters. You come across that accident so quickly. You have to predict. You cannot react. You have to predict.
Yeah, exactly. It's and sometimes you just don't have the brain space to predict, especially when you're thinking, oh, you know, it's about the halfway point of the stint. I should probably start looking at changing the weight jacker, maybe switch the anti-roll bar down the straights potentially. There's a lot to think about around a circuit like this in an IndyCar, but no further action decided by race control for that incident, as the race is back green. Challoner in the lead. Everyone pitting in the top 17. Mike Wagner has gone along and decided not to come in on that particular stint.
That's a case of Wagner was a lap down under the previous caution. He stayed out to get the wave around. He pitted coming to the green. That put him back a lap down. He just now got that lap back fully, so he's going to hope for another quick caution to maintain this position. Otherwise, he's going to be about 20 laps out of sequence with the rest of the field.
So the benefit of that, very light, very quick car, so he's agile, can move his way through the field. He's hoping for something. And I agree. Wagner's, when you're in this position, Wagner's got two opportunities, two ways to really go about this, and we've seen this for a number of lap cars already. Go to the front, earn your lap back, or go to the back and strategize your way back. So those are your two real opportunities, and you've got a seesaw between those. We're getting longer runs now, which makes me go, okay, I've got to go racing on it.
Yeah, speaking of racing forward, it looks like Steve Paulison is going to lead a lap here, past Christian Challoner on the way into turns 3 and 4, up from 26th to the lead of the race. There's a few cars in the top 10 that have had massive runs up through the field. Joshua Mertz up 19 spots, Christian Abate up 16, just been passed by Timothy Klaus there. Fox, meanwhile, got his car repaired after the unfortunate run in there with Sebastian Jackson, and now has the fastest lap of the race. He is right in the midst of this pack, taking advantage of mega slipstream. Speaking of mega racing team, Christian Challoner, he's sticking behind Steve Paulison for the time being, potentially using this as an opportunity to save some fuel early on in this stint.
Yeah, and you don't really want to be pushing it still. You're only lap 83 of 250. You're not even past halfway where the full points could be collected. You've already lost one competitor in Dallas Pataska to the back of the field. You only have to keep an eye on Ross Banfield at this particular point, who's going to come under attack from Greg Beccanini for that third position, shooting around the outside. He gets to second. Can he go for the lead right here? He's got room to the inside, but he's got a third station right here, just trying to maintain. He'll lock in that second position for the time being, and we're going to get two wide, 3 deep, and a little bit further. There's 4 different lanes back for about 12.
It's difficult to pick what the line really is, where the best place is to be. Saw a couple of technical issues for Joseph Homan. He was blinking a little bit there in P6. That won't be a nice thing to see for the majority of people behind him. Everyone's together now. Christian Challoner back to second spot. Looks like Paulison is extending the gap a little bit here in the lead. Paulison obviously running full rich here. He's the one punching the hole in the air, and it looks like he's just continuing on as things stand. I think they're going to catch up to him eventually, but I think that's the biggest lead that we've seen so far.
This is going to create some really, really interesting racing, particularly probably from about 5th place on back. Because what happens is everyone goes, oh, we're fuel saving. Well, somebody is going to get greedy. Somebody's going to go, okay, well, you guys want fuel saving. That's all right. I want to lead some laps. I want to drive my way back to the front of the field. Can we take a ride on board with Dan Stevens? I want to show you guys what it looks like back here. Watch what he's doing right here. Right now, Dan Stevens is at 3 laps down. He's got 2 ways to go. He can mega fuel save and try and flip the strategy, or he can drive his way through. Watch the engine. A couple laps ago, when it got up to about 365 kilometers an hour before he got to the end of the corner, he lifted and shaved off 40 kph, 320, 325 on the corner entry. Watch the miles per hour here. The run starts to bleed off, so he's bleeding off the gas as he comes down this straightaway, because there's nowhere for him to go. Now he sets himself up for the corner. He's reading the air. This is actually a really bad run from Dan. What happens is when he tipped into the corner there, Peeper aero wash, he got half the wing to the outside of the car ahead of him. All of that aero wash went off, enough downforce in the front of the car. Again, looks to read the lanes. He's looking for those cars up ahead of him. Those 2 cars right there are aero blocking him right now. So much tire scrub. Gets the wing outside again. I've got my downforce back. Now watch what he does here. A couple laps ago, he shot through the middle. His huge hole opened up, and he's just able to go 4 or 5 spots further forward. Now he's kind of bottlenecked up, can't really do much. Perfect. Again, half a wing outside the car in front of me. He just had that car bubble around the lane that he was in. Car got tight. Car didn't turn through the corner. Had to shift a little bit lower. The downforce came back again. That's what it's like driving an IndyCar.
Yeah, it's just managing the car in the moment and waiting for that opportunity. Stevens is one of the drivers playing the long game here, the very long game. As you said, Scott, he's 3 laps down. The only way he's going to be able to get all of that back is by staying out under caution, and fuel saving is a big part of that.
check those checkups in the outside lane. Dan's got to really... So again, if we can just go back to the onboard decisions, and the reason I'm looking at this and going, Dan's got to pick, where do I go? He's just had a car cut underneath him. That's Dallas Pataska, so he's taking his runaway. Dan had to lift. Now he's got to rebuild the run. But he's sitting in this outside lane, and the outside lane is going backwards right now. So now he's actually looking at his rearview mirrors. All right, where's the gap? Where's the gap? Where's the gap? Where's the gap? I've got to move down. I've got to do something. I've got to get out of where I am, or I've got to save more fuel. He's got to make a big decision. I think right now, with the pace of this race, he's got to go forwards, which means he has to get out of this outside lane.
Yeah, for the time being, though, he's not able to cut down low. Brian Barnes was down the bottom there, and it looks like Christian Abate to the bottom as well. There we go. Yep, he's moving to the middle.
Yeah, so perfect. All of those cars in the outside lane got checked up. A hole appeared in the bottom lane, and he had to run. Had to take that run and take it somewhere. That's what it's about with IndyCars. You've got to build the run at the right time, and then have a hole to take it somewhere, or you lift off and you waste the run. Build the run, have a hole to take it somewhere. Okay, I can take it. Okay, this time I kind of can't. Again, look, he's moved around a little bit because, that outside lane's just getting chalked up. The guys on the outside were actually looking to fuel save. He couldn't sit with them because that's not where he is strategically. So, again, whilst it looks like nothing's happening in the race, we have 30 or so drivers who are all making these micro decisions, and they're happening about 5 or 10 times a straight about what they're going to do. And it's not when they make the decision about what they're going to do has happened a good second or a second and a half ahead of when they actually make that choice. Because look at the speed that he's picked up. If he made a move to just change lanes right at the last possible moment, he would have turned that car, right? So he's got to plan and prepare. I'm committing to this decision way before it happens, and now he's cutting his way through.
Yeah, just see the speed that Stevens reached there, 237 miles an hour. That is crazy speed there. Well, 380 Ks an hour up the front of the field. Things are starting to compress. Yeah, he's going to try and get to the front of the pack here. Remember, Dan Stevens likes to listen into the broadcast, so he was probably hearing what you were saying, Scott, and thinking, yeah, okay, I'll give that a go.
There's 2 ways to go. So he probably heard me, I've got to get out of this top lane. He absolutely did. So there's 2 ways to go. What I like to do in this situation, when it happens, and we've all been there, right? We've all had a day where things haven't gone our way. He's got 2 ways to go. What I do is each caution, I flip what I'm doing. So this caution, I'm going hard, I'm going to the front, I'm going on my lap back. Okay, well, I did that. Now I'm going to save some fuel. So this next caution, I'm going to sit around, I'm going to add some strategy to it, I'm going to go to the back, I'm going to really sit tight. Next caution, all right, I'm going back in front again, I'm going to go on that lap back. What you do by doing that is you give yourself the best opportunity to take advantage of the best times of both worlds. And he's still reading things on the fly. I'm not committed to a strategy until I see what the pace of the race sort of happens to it. So he's got a huge opportunity, and the best thing he can do for his race right now, all the wrecks are going to happen behind him as well. That's more cars he's going to overtake. Even if he doesn't get his lap back, if he misses it by a car, the wrecks put more cars behind him. That's what he wants.
Yeah, and that's something that all of the cars a lap down or more will be thinking about. Remember, Dan Stevens is on the same lap as Justin Morton, only a couple of seconds behind here. It looks like Morton's doing the inverse to what Stevens is doing. Morton's just, sticking behind. So on the next green flag stint, he's going to try his best to move his way forward. Here comes Stevens to the front of the field here alongside Joshua Mertz, up 22 positions here, up the very front. McEnany and Paulison completing the top 3. And there is Dan Stevens to the front of the pack. Now, once he gets to the front here, Scott, what does he do? Does he have enough momentum to get by Joshua Mertz and sit in front of him? Mertz will probably be hoping for something like that. It'll give him an opportunity to save fuel, and there it is.
That's what you want. You basically want to offer to the leaders exactly what you just said. Hey, I'm quick enough to be up here, save some fuel behind me. Oh, he's in the open. He's out of gas. He's got a pit.
All right, there we go. Dan Stevens completing 43 laps on that stint. So that's a green flag stop. He's going to fall down nearly another lap from this. Looks like Damien Colty also making his way into the pit lane too. 41 laps completed on that stint. So Stevens and Colty fall out of the picture for the time being. Keep an eye out for the likes of Ray Partridge, who's made a big vault up here on this lap. He's going for it, up into 3rd from 5th at the start of the previous lap. Gavin Barber. Remember, we saw Gavin with a massive crash earlier on. Well, he's played those cautions really well and gotten back up into the top 5. Very impressive run here from Gav.
Yeah, so I mean, he's doing a phenomenal job, and that's what I talk about, flipping the strategy. You've got to, with the IndyCar, it's track position dependent. You're not forced. Normally NASCAR stuff, each individual portion, they send the lap cars to the back. IndyCar, because you're not getting the lucky dog, you maintain your positioning. Oh, I think Dan Stevens sped on the pit lane exit. I think he's actually walking for another penalty.
That's a shame for Stevens. Black flag. Oh no. Well, there we go then. That all of that strategizing that we saw earlier has come to naught for the time being. Still 150 laps and change left in this race, so plenty of time for him to work something out from here, but it's just another difficulty you have to work your way around.
You just put the pin in it, you go, okay, didn't go my way, what do we learn? Okay, we want to get back out there, we want to learn, we want to just try and pick little bits and pieces off, because there's always going to be some little pieces. But you're right, for Gavin, what Gavin's doing a really, really good job of at the moment is finding the open lane of air, and I think there's a lot of cars around him that are struggling to find that open lane of air. Dallas Pataska's that car that's just moved to the middle lane. Again, got a run, built the run, moved forward. He was saving a lot of fuel and tires at the start of the season. He actually wasn't taking a lot of runs. Script has now flipped just because of where the strategy's gone. Oh boy, that's tight for Pataska. But that's what you got to do. You got to say, hey, I've got a run. I've got some momentum. I've got to take it somewhere. He had the run. Excuse me. And he needed to take it somewhere. And that holds us close. And he knew when to lift. That's really, really good high-level IndyCar driving, is knowing precisely how aggressive you can be whilst maintaining the run, whilst moving yourself forward. I think this is going to be a really, really interesting opportunity. The instant we get a green flag stop, you're going to see this field scatter, and you're going to end up with about 5 different packs.
Yeah, and which pack is going to be the one with the biggest advantage is the question, but all of that is still yet to come. 149 laps remaining in the race. Paulison versus Mertz at the front of this field, keeping an eye on Sam Harper, who's managed to find his way back into the top 5 himself. He's on the same strategy as everyone around him. We're expecting pit stops soon from lap-down cars. Wayne Hutchison in the lane. The next car to come in is going to be Justin Morton, I believe, followed by Ryan Steele. So keep an eye out for those guys blending back onto the racetrack.
Yeah, and now we've got 4 cars that are isolated off the pack that are sort of driving around on their own and just sort of reading things. So now if you start to pit, now there's some help out there, right? The hope is that you can find one of these things. When we get actually out to those pack-style of stages, you get a really, really cool thing forming. And it's something that's so unique to IndyCar because you don't get it in anything else. It's called slingshot effect. It's where 2 cars, potentially even 3 cars, you can do 3 here, really work together, and what one will do is one will lead the way, the second car in the queue will back it right up as they come to the corner, and he'll build the run, blast past him as they get 3/4 of the way down the straight. He takes a huge amount of momentum. We talked about getting up to 240 mile an hour. That's the goal. And as soon as he pokes his nose out, all the air starts rushing over the car. Huge amounts of drag go on within the seat of the car. Pulls him back. But in the meantime, that car that he's just blasted past, he'll set up and he'll build the slingshot. He'll do the same thing again. If you do it right, there's 2/10 a lap that can be found. But you have to work together. You have to find yourself a drafting buddy. You ever remember those tandem drafting days from NASCAR? IndyCar's got its own variant.
That it has, and love to see it for sure. Christian Challoner here in the midst of the midfield. Remember, Challoner qualified in 5th spot, so he's still playing a long game and working his way back up to that position. Still got a long way to go in this race, but Challoner not getting much of any aero disturbance ahead at the moment, sticking to the inside. He'll be using his tyres a little more, but I think the cooler track conditions will be helping him out there, not overheating the tyres all that much. But having said that, just looked at the track temperature, and it hasn't fallen all that much more. It went down to 27 degrees when the sun set, and there's still quite a bit of heat in the track at the moment. It's not fallen.
So it has fallen just on... Oh, Lynn's back. Well, good to see you back, Lynn. How was the break?
Sorry about that. I had to step away.
You're good. I didn't read on that. That's on me.
I was gonna say, you're not gonna see the track temperature fall all that much because you still have 24 racing machines out there circulating around. They're putting heat from the tires back into the track, so that heat will just sort of kind of hang out there, which will keep the grips at optimal levels for the most of the stint. I mean, the 5-lap average currently is still sitting in the 33.1s, where the best laps were the 32.2s, so about a second difference. So a lot of these guys, I think, again, Challenger has about a 100-point lead in the championship over Dallas Pataska. As you can see, Ryan Steele has hit the pit lane from the midfield. Again, Challenger has Ross Banfield to deal with, so there's about a 110-point difference. He doesn't need to be right up there at the front all of the time. He can sort of sit back and let the race play out, and then see what he needs to do at the end.
Well, Steele comes to a stop in the lane next to cars scheduled to come in for a stop, looking to be Pataska and McGreevy, along with Stuart Elder, all cars that are a little bit out of this lead pack at the moment. 31 laps have been completed on this green flag stint so far. Pataska going to try and go 3 wide and get to the lead of this pack. Remember, Pataska's on his 98th lap. Everyone else is 108th lap now. So Pataska a long way down in terms of distance, but if he plays this right, might be able to get at least a few of those laps back before the end.
You'll never get back to the lead lap from this position. The problem with IndyCar, that's it, right? Even if you get back-to-back cautions, you can't. Basically, you've got to race your way back to the front about 7 out of the 10 times, and it's just not feasible to do that consistently enough. So he will always finish off the lead lap here. There's no potential. But what he can do is he can go in the system. He can ruffle some feathers up here and show what he's capable of. And what I've seen from Pataska is, again, a willingness to build the run. He clearly knows the cars. He clearly knows the package. He backs things up, builds the run, reads the air. I've seen him get a little bit frustrated with a couple guys chopping his nose a couple times. You're going to get 10 laps down, all right? What do you care? May as well get out there, be aggressive, and have some fun. And that's what these cars are about. Take the run, get aggressive, drive the single fastest cars in this sim. There is nothing else faster than these bad boys. May as well go out there and rip and tear.
Yeah, love to see some ripping and some tearing, but only 4 positions, not actual physical ripping and tearing of cars. We've seen more than enough of that in the first half of this race. Well, lap 35 of this stint has begun for our leaders. We're expecting they're going to be anywhere from 7 to 10 laps away from their next green flag stop, and it looks like we may be on the verge of getting a green flag stop for our lead pack. And like you said, Scott, that's going to result in a lot of spreading of the field.
And Mertz's car is starting to really move around on the rear end, so you can tell that that is a light car. He has led a lot of laps from the front end of this pack. I wouldn't be surprised if he has to pit 1 or 2 laps early. Probably leaning towards 2, just from how much he's led. Paulison, really good spot in terms of strategy. Track position has been good the whole stint, and he's barely led.
Yeah, Paulison in what I believe is a Greg Moore tribute livery on that car. And we've got, I mean, this is just really tense right now. I mean, you've got Pataska right in the midst of all these guys. He's on his 40th lap now, is Pataska. So I'm expecting him to come into the lane very soon. Maybe make it a few more laps before he peels out of this pack, but he's still going to try and keep himself at the front of this lead pack here. What does he do,
the thing you have to wonder is, he doesn't really gain anything by staying out here this long. He obviously will have to come to the pit sooner than everybody else. And the other thing to keep in mind, with the rest of the lead field on the same fuel strategy, it looks like Pataska has run it dry. He ran it dry. He might have gotten into a limp state, but now we have to turn our attention to the rest of the field. Could we potentially see a pack of green flag pit stops? Is it going to be feeding time at the zoo for the entire herd?
Yeah, I think that's what we're building up to. This lead pack is massive. They're actually 3 wide for the lead at the moment. Mertz still leading. There was a big push from Sam Harper in the last couple of laps, getting into the top 3. And now he's going to try and go for the lead himself. Punch the hole through the air. No draft assistance.
Mertz is coming. There's just a call on the radio, and it didn't come from him. It actually came from Jake Fox as a teammate. He is coming this time by.
Here we go. Slows out. Gets out of the pack. Exit to turn 4. Slowing all the way down to 90 k's an hour. So the first of our green flag pit stops for this race in the lead pack. What do the likes of Harper and Partridge do to respond? They might very well pit at the end of this lap. I saw Harper potentially blend out of the throttle a little bit. I think he's preparing to come in.
And we've seen the lap times down, still hovering at the 33.2s. More cars are starting to come down the pit road. It looks like it was Partridge coming in, along with Paulison, Greg McEnany. And the thing you don't want to have to do is you don't want to speed on the entry pit road. Black flags for Paulison and McEnany. They will have to serve those at the end of their stops, and that's a 40-second time penalty. Those are race enders if you want a chance at this victory. But meanwhile, the field at the front, Harper, Banfield, Barber have to be thinking about coming in. We have calls from Phil Otto coming in. And the top 5 will stay out for the time being. Take a look at this Phil Otto machine right here. He's going to come down into the pits. Can he get it down to 55 miles an hour? Yes, he does.
So he escapes that dreaded speeding in pits penalty. That's such a shame for McEnany and Paulison, particularly Paulison. You know, he had such a beautiful run up through the field. It can all go wrong in the space of a few meters if you're just a few miles an hour over that pit speed limit on the way in. Get on the brakes a tad too late, and that is your contention for victory sealed. As that's not good there. Joseph Homan, that's on pit entry. Another car going into the wall there. I'm not too sure who that was.
Lottridge.
Jason Lottridge. So both of those cars having big problems on the way into the pits. Fortunately, we stay green, but that's just going to be more time cost there. And does Lottridge still have a spare car? I'm expecting not. Oh, he does. They both do. Well, now with the spare car taken, Jason Lottridge has committed himself to the end of this race on a single car. Well, these guys are going quite a while, aren't they? They're on lap 44. I'm expecting pretty much everyone in the top 9 to make their way into the pits here. This is what happened to... Just losing it on the transition off to the apron. I'm amazed that wasn't a caution, honestly.
Well, the car was stayed straight, so by the time Lottridge came around to get his jump scare, it is October after all. It is the month of Halloween. A couple of cars coming in. Another penalty has surprised the field. Gavin Barber is the latest to catch a speeding ticket. He almost ran into the back of, I want to say, it's the Jake Fox machine.
Harper.
That's right there with, Harper, yeah. Apologies, mix up right there. But again, you get that little scare. At least it happened right at the entrance to pit road right here. Take a look at the replay. Hits that inside wall where Denny Hamlin clobbered it really hard a few years back. But at the entrance to pit road, he's able to get the spare car out with very little time lost, so he's able to continue.
In comes Banfield as well, seeing Brian Barnes in the lane 2. Sam Harper just exiting pit lane and rejoining in 8th spot, just behind Mike Wagner. We're waiting on Timothy Klaus to go for the lane here. He, Abate, Kuhn and Challoner have gone very long on this stint, but looks like they're all going to come in now. Klaus with a nice and stable pit entry there. And it looks like they've all avoided black flags for the time being. Banfield re-emerging back onto the racetrack here. And now the lead falls to Christian Abate, who it seems is going to go the longest out of anyone on this stint.
This changes everything up right now. So remember, I said everyone was going to segregate. Everyone was going to form their own little packs when they come out of this pit. that has now happened. Jake Fox has just managed to tag in, as with Brian Barnes, on the back end of a little pack of 3 cars that were all about a lap down. They've managed to form up with Ray Partridge and Josh Mertz. Keep an eye on them. They had a lot of pace. The other key factor, they're going to pick up Ross Banfield. Banfield's out circulating on his own right now. They're going to be caught. Challoner's going to be really, really interesting to watch feedback out here. He's going to rejoin at the tail end of that pack. There is 1 or 2 cars. I'm looking at Sam Harper has done a phenomenal job through the lane. He leads everyone right now, but he was one of the middle of the range of pitters. Mike Wagner, I'm still showing as he pit the last time at the end of lap 97, start of lap 98. So he is off cycle, but sits in a really, really good spot. There's a bunch of different strategies buzzing around right now. Critical lap number for me, 40 lap runs, 130. That's 3 more runs here. That's 2 more pit stops from where we sit. Every time you add a lap, you're going to take 2 laps off of that. So that means 41 lap stints, we get to lap 128. 42 lap stints, you need to get to 126. And then you can pit after that. So we're in the middle. I don't think fuel mileage is going to be concerned because of the spread of the strategy. I just don't see a world where anyone can really cut a stop out, but it's tight.
Yeah, very tight indeed. Well, Sam Harper with the big advantage here. He's got a draft buddy for the next 13 or so laps, maybe a little bit more, in the form of Mike Wagner. They got to try and get in line though and work together, because I see Christian Abate is coming. Abate had a pretty good run through the lane. He was actually one of the quickest from entry to exit, 38.9 seconds. Gav Barber, meanwhile, into the lane here, and looks like he got a black flag coming in to serve his black flag. So just going from bad to worse for Gavin Barber. It's been a real up and down race for him.
Where in the budget was the money to hire Esteban Ocon for this race? Oh, sorry, it's Gav Barber. My apologies.
Oh lordy, yeah, that is definitely not a young Frenchman in that sim rig. Well, Barber manages to get out of the box cleanly. Hopefully doesn't get another black flag on pit exit. Certainly wouldn't be ideal. Wagner, meanwhile, continuing on here, having started his 31st lap on this stint behind Sam Harper. But keep an eye out for the pack behind. They're not too far behind, and they're working together really well. See, this is I think that was a sort of attempt at a slingshot there from Wagner, but Harper protecting the inside on entry, not giving Wagner much to work with there.
So this is actually on Harper. Harper's going to make, when you're working together like this, effectively all that's going on is Wagner's just sitting there and running his times. There's no one ahead of these guys for them to catch up and latch onto. So right now what's actually happening is I believe Christian Abate is running in a lower fuel map, which is the only reason these guys are running away. Ray Partridge is going to come and slingshot around him. What's supposed to happen? Not on the outside like this. The lead car comes off the corner and goes up and runs up against the wall. The car that's coming for the chase through then picks up the slingshot, slings to the inside of them, takes the most efficient line they possibly can through the corner. Sometimes it's running around the bottom of the track. Sometimes it's minimal scrub on the tires. I think here it's actually about a middle groove. It's a middle to bottom groove. Minimize the scrub because that's speed that's being lost. But the lap time is in shortening the distance around the track as well. So you've got to definitely use the bottom groove. So it's on Harper to sort of run high and allow the run to come through. If they were doing that right now, they'd be up to 5 seconds ahead. That's how much it's worth. And you just keep running and running and running and running and running. Harper is in the box seat to win this race, but he has to work with someone. You do not win Auto Club on your own.
No, certainly not. And it looks like the balance has just shifted. Harper and Wagner were faster on the lap before previous, but now everyone's taken about 2/10 out of them on this lap. And what were you saying earlier, Scott? Working together is worth about 2/10 a lap.
Well, that's a little bit different, and the reason that it's actually a little bit different is because on that most recent lap, Abate was actually ahead of that pack. They slingshotted up to him and drove around him. Abate's in mega fuel save mode. That's actually what his... So the reason they were pulling away from Abate, even though he's so quick... this hasn't worked out for Abate, by the way. He wanted to come out and ride in this pack. He spent about 5 laps running on his own. That's actually worse for him than... he was too quick through the pit lane. But yeah, they actually wanted to be packed up a little bit here. And what's going to happen is the two guys that have, I think it's Partridge and Ross Banfield at the moment, they've got to start to initiate that. Because what's going on is Partridge is basically cutting the way through. Somebody's got to pull the trigger here and start setting the pace for this pack. Otherwise, they won't run down Harper.
Well, 119 laps to go, Lynn. We are officially past the halfway point of the race. And, well, as we were saying, it's all about setting up for that next stop, for the runs to the end. Got to be gentle, though. It's well and truly dark out there, and I think the track temperature might start dropping again a little bit more, but usually when the sun comes down, the heat stays in the track for a bit, especially when there's cars thundering over the tarmac.
Yep, the lights have come on and the mercury has risen, so a lot. This pack is just definitely fighting its way, trying to catch up. I want to say, at least in Harper's instance, if he's got telemetry on board his sim rig, he'll be aware that Wagner is going to have to come to the pits anyway in a little bit. And I wonder, Scott, if you know that guy is going to be gone for a little bit, do you necessarily want to work with him, or do you just want to try to take it away from him?
Yes, so Wagner's actually peeled off right here. So Wagner's off sequence. Wagner is not a threat to him in terms of strategy. Wagner's going to make one more pit stop than he does. So that's why I'm sitting here and I'm going, I want to work with this guy. And I've actually done this strategy to win at Auto Club before. I happened to find a buddy of mine who was similar position. He was about 20 laps offset to my fuel strategy because he had to get a lap back at some point in time. And we just swap drafted all day. What happened was there was another guy in the chase pack who was mega fuel saving, and he couldn't do anything about it because that fuel saving amount, we ran that off. We gave ourselves, it takes some time, but if you keep chipping away at it, you get yourself 5, 10, 15 seconds out in the lead. And then everyone goes, oh, we've got to turn the wick up. So everyone starts fighting in the pack and everyone squabbles and everyone really changes around what they really want to be doing. That's what you want. As a leader, you want to be messing with everyone behind you. And you need a partner to do that. You can't do it on your own.
Yeah, and unfortunately in the process of that, Wagner has lost his lap again. But I mean, if it goes green from here on out, he'll cycle back at some point. Meanwhile, on board with the Mechanini machine, currently 19th in amongst the group. Not in contention for position right here, but as you see, just riding on those nose right here. It's such a quick lap around here. Just try not to mind his P's and Q's right here. And near as I could tell, these machines are perfectly stable as the air temperature comes down.
Yeah, when you're setting up a car, the ideal way to do it is to have the car be in its best state at the end of the race. So I think a lot of these drivers will have set up their cars to be handling the best in the nighttime conditions, or as the race goes on, they'll be tuning the weight jacker and the anti-roll bars to be at their optimum settings at about this point when the track's really starting to cool off. Wagner, Paulson and Mechanini are together in their pack, running as a trio. And they will be, I think Wagner's definitely the one who's most off in strategy when it comes to those three. But Harper now has been caught by the pack, and Ray Partridge is going to go for the lead from here. There's one lap down car in the midst of all of this, Gavin Barber and Ryan Steele as well. The question is, will they help Harper out any?
Well, if you're in Harper's shoes, you just go, hey, I'll take the fuel saving. I'll run up here. I'll sit third in line, no problem. You guys go. I'll give you this as a lap back. As soon as you're at the caution, you can have that lap back. Give me the fuel saving. Give it to me. Greedy kid of the county store with fuel, these IndyCar drivers are.
It seems like Harper is packing his bag full of chocolates at the moment, because he's not letting these two go, and Josh Mertz is creeping ever closer behind.
And Steele, again, very, very tail end of the lead laps, at the front of also one lap down. He's currently looking at lap 34 of the stint, whereas everybody else is about 10 to 15 laps ahead of him on the stop. So again, he's fighting to get that lead lap back in case a caution comes out, but with the green flag run going right here, he's just kind of sitting there helping Harper in a sense by taking away a racing lane for anybody else to try to come and attack. As we look at the Mertz machine right there in P number 3, having a really good run, and Hutchison comes back into the pits, a all-sequence pit stop at the tail end of the lap down machines. Pretty little dog bear machine going down there, but up at the front, it's kind of status quo again. Where we saw at the start of the race, we have lap down cars sort of boxing things in, forcing people to go elsewhere for track position.
So this is how things stand in the middle of this green flag stint. The car with the most laps completed on this stint is Joshua Mertz. He's just completed his 26th lap. Ray Partridge is similar on strategy, 25 laps completed. Everyone else looking anywhere from 18 to 20 laps completed on the stint. So expecting Mertz and Partridge to pit first out of these guys. The drivers like Nick Kuhn and Christian Abate, they'll be able to continue on a bit longer, pit later. And how will that switch up the pack is the question. Now everyone's together, everyone's trying to work together, save a bit of fuel, make sure that they get a few laps longer on this stint. Remember, a caution can happen at any time. All it takes is a little bit of a harder run into the corner, a little bit more aero wash, maybe a car to the outside, disturbing your aerodynamics a little bit. Gav Barber still right with these guys. He's down in 22nd position, 17 laps into the stint. So I think on fuel, he'll be able to stay with these guys until they pit, even past that. I don't think he's going to blend out of this pack anytime soon.
Ryan Steele just called out pitting from the middle of this pack, so he's going to have to get at the bottom off of turn 4 here. Yeah, tricky situation. Gavin actually, you're right, did come down the pit lane a little later than these guys. He had an extended stay on pit lane as well. Don't forget he had that penalty to serve for serving his penalty. So, yeah, I mean, you know, this is tricky. Have a look at Mertz is trying to do something with this because he recognizes that he's the most offset on fuel, and he's in trouble. But if I'm in Mertz's shoes, I don't want to lead. And the reason I don't want to lead is that puts me in a bigger hole. But he's got other ideas. He thinks he can run away from me.
Yeah, 3 wide at the front of the pack. Gavin right in the middle. And it's times like this, Lynn, that you're grateful for those seams in the tarmac there through the corners. The lanes are demarcated quite nicely. So if something goes wrong for you, you'll know about it.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the iRacing simulator, those seams are physically modeled, so you will get a difference in grip based on how much of the tire you have on those seams. So if you're needing a little bit more rotation, you might put your left side's tires down on the seam below you. Alternatively, if you're trying to work up a run, you can probably put your right sides on the outside and make it work that way. The other thing, with Mertz being only about 4 laps off sequence compared to Harper, I wonder, Scott, if perhaps he saved enough fuel and now he's trying to charge up to the front and make Sam spend some fuel here.
Well, Sam is in full green flag mode, right? So you don't sit in this position in the pack and save fuel. So there is nothing that Sam can do. Sam should have, as soon as the pack caught him, he should have abandoned and gone on the back and gone back to fuel saving. You don't sort of want to run too much up front. So what everyone else is doing that at the moment. I'm keeping an eye on Nick Kuhn because he seems to be doing a fair bit of that fuel saving right now. And again, use the lapped car. Because Gavin Barber is out here going, hey, I want to lead. I want my lap back. Can I have my lap back? Can I have my lap back? I'll burn some fuel, boys. I'll burn some fuel. I'll burn some fuel, please. Please let me burn some fuel. And no one's letting him do that. Well, I'm in Sam Harper's shoes. I'm just like, okay, go nuts. Go nuts. Oh, caution. Here we go.
Oh, okay. This is going to change things.
Oh, Gavin didn't get it. Oh, he missed it by a wing.
Goodness me, Gav Barber will not get the wave around by the slimmest of margins. What on earth happened there on that caution? I was looking at my timing screen and I couldn't exactly pick who had the problem there. It looks like Robert Northway is disconnected from the server. Stuart Elder and Robert Northway. Oh no, that's massive there. It looks like Northway just lost it in the middle of turns 1 and 2.
You were talking about touching seams there, Lynn. I think that might have been a seam. My first instinct.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Putting wheels on the seam and perhaps having the weight checker just a little bit too far forward, allowing that right rear to rotate. And it was a really good job of catching the car. The problem is he ran out of physical real estate when the Stuart Elder machine came on through and collided into him. And I believe both of those vehicles had to take a tow to get back to the front. Take a look at this replay right here. We go on board with, I believe this is the Northway machine, that Bluey car. Kaboom.
Did you see the attitude right as he crossed the seams with the right tires? 100%. It was, yeah, sure, it's probably a touch too much weight jacker, but seam contributed.
Yeah, certainly did. You saw that like almost right at the moment of turn in, the rear end was swinging free. Well, that's basically put everyone in the lead pack back on the same strategy. We were talking about, burning fuel, trying to extend the stint, whether or not you want to be behind the leader or not. Well, all of that has just become irrelevant all over again. It's 100 laps to go, and so that tells me fuel is still going to be a factor. If we get 2 green flags stints to the end, that's a maximum of like 45 laps or so. They're going to have to take a splash at the end.
Yeah, so this stint now becomes about track position. What I would expect, we've actually seen quite a low lap time recently because everyone's just been in massive fuel conservation mode. Everyone's been looking to try and conserve. They've been trying to look after their cars, not trying to be the lead car. That changes now. So what happens now is that everyone has to be on the same strategy. The amount of fuel you'll take at the last stop will be slightly different, but everyone is on the same physical strategy. It's just when that final stop comes. So what will happen as a result is the pace will go up because everyone goes, okay, well, I can't cut a pit stop out now. I can't do some funky things so I can you can shorten your last stop, but not a huge deal. I really don't think you'll touch that last stop. What now happens though is you go, okay, well, there's nothing to lose. So I'm going to push on. I'm going to try and get as many spots as I want. That's going to trigger some more cautions potentially.
There is something cheeky that I'm just thinking about. You could go 42, and then make a really short fuel stop at the end. There's an alternative strategy in mind that I'm thinking of. You could probably go 35 on your last 2 stops, and that would make your last stint 30, potentially getting you a little less time overall in the pits because you're only taking maybe 15 gallons of fuel as opposed to the 18.5 fuel capacity that this Dallara IR18 holds. So a lot of it just comes down to, are you at the front? Do you want to take a fuel here? Or do you want to get a little clever and try to run light to go faster?
If I've got someone I will work with you on that one, Lynn. You're right and wrong at the same time. There's a really tricky thing here whereby what you're talking about is shaving 5 to 7 laps off of each stint and then having a really short run to the end. And the reason you might want to do that, again, track position. The fuel, a full fuel tank covers the tires plus, you give yourself like 3 seconds, I think it is in terms of this. So it's not a huge deal. So if you can take enough fuel such that you perfectly cover the tires in both of those stints, that's the best way to go. Because you get fresh rubber, you get nearly a full tank of gas, and you're still within the same window. The only difficulty will be is if you pop out perfectly like just over a second ahead of the pack with no one to work with, all of a sudden that margin that you gain, they'll just run you down. So that's where I wouldn't want to take that. But if I've got somebody to work with and somebody who's going to slingshot draft with me on that same strategy, bingo, that is the winner.
Well, the green flag flies and we are back to racing again. Sam Harper leading the way. And now everyone is on the same strategy in the top 12. Outside of it, Steve Paulison has managed to get a lap back under that stop, but he's going to have to come in about 10 laps or so. So keep an eye out for Paulison to potentially fight his way towards the front of the pack here and gain a little bit more track position besides. There's big runs going on outside the top three. They've broken away for the moment. Nick Kuhn running in third behind Mertz and Harper, but I'm seeing Ross Banfield start to jet his way forward. 3 wide for 5th spot. Barnes managing to get ahead of Partridge and Abate. Christian Challoner also getting some momentum down low, and it looks like they're going to be slicing and dicing for a little while longer.
This is the perfect spot for Banfield to be right at this particular point. He has enough of a gap to where he can get that big run, but at the same time, he could also dial back the fuel map a little bit. He doesn't have to suck all the way up to that lead breakaway just yet, so he can save a little bit of fuel right here, right now, still catch up. Meanwhile, looking at the Mertz machine alongside the 52 of Harper going side by side for the lead. That's just going to allow Nick Kuhn to walk right back into this battle. And here's Ross Banfield again, trying to catch up, and that's going to make a 4-car battle for the lead.
Yeah, this is again, I think, the same sort of behavior we've been seeing from Harper for the last stint or so. He doesn't want to be behind for whatever reason, and it looks like everyone behind him is taking advantage of that. Here comes Banfield around the outside of Mertz. The fastest lap will go to Dan Stevens, down in 21st position and 4 laps down on the field. He's gone down a little further from when we last checked in on him. And Paulison, it looks like, has decided to already pull out of that pack there. 38 laps completed on that stint. 9.3 second stop. He's fueled back up for another potential run here. 94 laps remaining in this race. So if you're Steve Paulison, you're right on the verge of potentially making it 2 stints to the end. But you know, you're going to need a couple extra laps besides.
Do whatever you can. Do whatever you can. Grab things. Just work as hard as you possibly can. Save every skerrick of fuel, every last drop. If you got a rag that's maybe got a couple of drops of sweat, we'll throw that in the fuel tank too. We'll just, whatever we can get in there. Pack of 4 boys. I'm going to need every drop on the lane. So what other options does he have? The biggest thing right now, you fall off the lead lap, your day is likely done. You will not get it back because we're just that far into the race. The opportunities have just about run out. So now it becomes about, okay, how aggressive do I want to be? What do I need to do to win the race? And that becomes the big question. You can see, have a look at how much more packed up these guys are. Remember what we were just talking about? I think the pace is going to come up. Yeah, the pace has come up because everyone knows, hey boys, it's go time.
Yeah, go time for Banfield. He almost gets fully ahead of Harper by the time they get to turn 1, but Sam is continuing to stick like glue down to that low line. He has not moved up for the longest time there. And here comes Christian Challoner. He's going to try and take advantage of that move. And, well, the momentum is usually better when you're up the top. You're able to get a better run off the corner. Oh, no! There we go. That's going to change things all over again. Losing it in a big way was Joshua Mertz. He was such a factor in that lead battle, but he just caught the apron on the start-finish stretch, and that's completely destroyed the race for the likes of Gavin Barber, for Christian Abate as well. Abate with massive damage.
Abate did so well on the fuel save run as well. He was starting to poke his nose ahead and be a car to watch, and just check this out.
This is one of those moments where it's like, if you're gonna make that mistake, discretion is the better part of valor. I would just took it straight left and take it into the infield. Unfortunately, that he caused a little bit of an overcorrection, and that is an almighty collision to the outside, going over Abate, just going skyward. So yeah, that's a lot of damage to multiple machines, and again, we've used a lot of spare cars already. That's probably a couple of more right there.
How was the escape from Jake Fox? This is on board with Christian Challoner. We're looking back at the fight, and Challoner was so close to getting cleaned up in all of this. It was a matter of a car length or so. And up he comes. Oh, that was so close to race ending for our championship leader. That is ridiculous. And if we can get a view from Jake Fox looking forward as well, that'd be good because, man, Jake, I think that's one of the luckier escapes he's had.
So, fun fact, this is a tricky number.
Yeah.
If we'd have gone about another 2 or 3 laps, the pace of the race would come back down again. And the other side of the things is Dan Stevens. What does he do right now? Oh, I would have stayed out, Dan. I think I'd have stayed out and taken another lap back because you have to. There's a bunch of guys here that are going to look to stay out just because why not? This doesn't get us within the window. We are that close to it that if the pace falls off massively, you can make it. But the pace has to fall off for the entire field. Whoever's at the lead of the field just goes hard right now because you don't want the pace to fall off. You actually don't want to turn this into a fuel save race.
It was only a car width in it there for Jake Fox. He's already had a nasty surprise up the top of the circuit when the sun was still up. And I think he'll be very happy that it's worked out how it is. He's one of the cars to have stayed out, though. Phil Otto and Jake Fox now lead the way for Kingsman.
Do you think it's because of what he just witnessed?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe just, still, pinching himself to make sure that he is indeed awake. Josh Mertz given an end-of-line penalty for incident responsibility there, but both Mertz and Abate have been in the pits now for over 2.5 minutes. This is the view here from Gav Barber. Ah, man, at those speeds, with that little space between the cars, no time to react. And keep an eye out for Jake Fox. Where is he? There he is.
Absolutely terrifying. I don't think Art the Clown could have done any better in the Terrifier series. So, yeah, honestly, Jake Fox is probably still taking time to recompose himself after that moment. It has resulted in an opportunity to keep Ryan Steele pinned down lap as we ride on board with Barber. Again, absolutely destroy the car. We get a better look at it right here without having the nose cone flying about. Oof. If that rear wheel hadn't popped up at that particular moment, I think Fox may have just clipped in, but it's a matter of inches or even centimeters at that point. And that's an opportunity now for Jake Fox to go forward because 2 of his closest competitors just got taken out.
Yeah,
So,
very true.
Leon, I'll pitch this one to you. When you come to an IndyCar race, how many spare pairs of underwear do you bring?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the only correct response.
Yeah, agreed. I would say it's a number in the double digits, depending on how far back in the field you are, because you're going to be the one coming up on those incidents when they happen.
I've never asked the question so many times about how many pairs of underwear fit in a suitcase, but I'm going to need to find an answer.
Well,
yeah,
actually, I would say the better answer is you pack enough to fill the suitcase, and then when you get to wherever you're going, you go to the local store and you buy about another dozen pair.
Yep. I would agree with that too. A further question is, how big is the suitcase?
And can we get a Bond sponsorship?
We might have to take a look at the duty-free store at this particular point. Pace car is off again. Hello, Reese. How about you take away this restart?
All right, Phil Otto going to lead the way here, getting a big jump on Jake Fox. And Fox is going to have Ryan Steele for company. Steele, of course, is in 12th spot. Phil Otto and Jake Fox a lap ahead of him as things stand. Steele is with Hutchison for position, not too far behind. Here comes the run from Steele. He's going to get to the inside of Jake Fox. Meanwhile, the pack behind isn't really a pack. It's a long line of cars, but that's going to change in a few laps' time, I'd wager.
This will be interesting. This run will be probably the most interesting run of the day. Theoretically, you can maybe make it. The problem being, is of the cars that can theoretically maybe make it, no one will lead. No one will want to lead, and someone is going to have to. If we go green.
Well, but this particular point, you have 2 cars out in front working lap number 16 of the stint starting here. If Jake Fox, Phil Otto, plus a couple of lap cars, those guys will basically be punching the air for the next 25 or so laps. You could conceivably get this stint up to lap 45, lap 46. The question I would have is, how are you going to make that second stint work? Because that's going to be a long ways to go in potentially clean air.
I'll give you another hot tip. If I'm one of the cars that just pit, it stayed out under that most recent caution, I'm not waiting. As soon as I'm in my fuel window, I'm coming to pit lane. And the reason for that is, I am not punching the air for those guys. Nope. They're going to come do it themselves. What you'll see happen if that's the case, the pace of the race will slow down so much that the guys who undercut and are going for the doubles may actually catch back up to the field. Something funky will happen when you start to play fuel games at the front of these things.
Yeah, we still don't know exactly who's in contention for victory here. We still don't know how this race is going to pan out, whether or not there's going to be another big crash that brings out the caution, which will force us to recalculate and redefine our strategy picture towards the very end. 2 wide for the lead of the pack here. It's Hutchison and Steele running 12th and 13th at the very front of this. Behind them, Greg McEnany, who's in 14th. So 3 lap down cars at least being a factor in this pack. It's Banfield who is at the very front of the race at the moment, and he's trying to see if there's a door open down low. He's going to stick down low, stick in the slipstream of Wayne Hutchison. A little bit wide up top and a little bit of momentum lost for Jake Fox. He's falling back into the pack. Is this a good decision here from Fox?
Not really. I question it. He's got to do whatever Ross Banfield does. He's got to be sticking with Ross Banfield. The problem is, if he doesn't stick with Ross Banfield, because they're the only 2 that are on that strategy, all of a sudden, he gets disconnected from him. They can't help each other if they both need to convert to the alternate strategy. So, if I'm in his shoes, whatever Ross is doing, I'm right there on his gearbox. I'm staying with him. I'm committed to whatever he's doing. He's my best buddy right now.
Yeah, I would agree on that one. Banfield and Otto will be trading positions for the lead of the race here. Ryan Steele and Greg McEnany up the top, but then moving towards the middle and the bottom. It looks like Steele is going to try and stick here with Hutchison to the best of his ability. Stay out of the slipstream in the corners for that extra grip on the front tyres, but whenever they get to the straights, he tends to fall back in behind. He blends out, he moves back in. I mean, it's amazing how quickly the face of a battle can change. You know, on the first lap, all of these guys were spread out, you know, and it didn't look like they had any chance of catching up to each other. But now they are all together once again.
And it almost changed completely again because we had another car touching the apron. This time it was the 80 of Timothy Klaus we saw in the background just a few moments ago. He tapped the apron, got a little loose, but he was able to hang on to it, so that didn't bring out a caution. He's fallen to the back of the pack, but still running inside of the top 10. Basically, back of the cars that are ahead of the lead lap, you still have those 3 hanging out at the front that are technically tail end, just sort of kind of punching a hole through the air. But still, good opportunity right now to just sort of kind of recollect yourself, try to do the math here. And again, everybody's, like Scott was saying earlier, making micro decisions throughout the run. I would think these guys are now changing their processing to when do I save fuel? When do I go? When am I going to pit? Try to make this work.
Yeah, I don't think tyres are going to be as big of a factor as fuel at this stage. The tyres are going to last pretty much the full distance regardless of what you do at this point in the race. It's taken all of this time for the track temperature to drop an extra degree. It now sits at 26 Celsius. which is right in the window, I think, for what I like when I'm driving. Gives me the optimum level of grip for my tastes. But still, 11-mile-an-hour winds, which may or may not play a part in such light cars, such aero-sensitive cars at these speeds. Daniel Stevens, we've been keeping track of him. He's worked his way back up to the front of this pack in the number 3, sitting 20th. You see him off on the right there in Ross Banfield's view. And he's got... I don't know what more Stevens can do from here. Basically, the only other car that he's fighting with on the same lap is Justin Morton, and even then, Morton is almost a lap ahead of Stevens. So I think Dan is just doing what he can to preserve what little track position he has left to work with.
I'll tell you a really funny fact. Ross Banfield is the only lead car in that fight. Every other car that's ahead of Ross is a lap down. That is how critical fuel is right now.
Yeah, I think Banfield's playing this pretty well. You know, he's got so much slipstream, he's able to run that lower fuel map and still maintain the pace.
Yeah, with this essentially with a chase group sitting right in front of the leaders, it does bring the fuel mileage in the favor of everybody hanging out here. But at the same time, at a certain point, some of these guys will have to start peeling off, and once those cars go away, the fuel number is going to go up. It's going to be very difficult, I think, to try to hit 45 on this final stop. I think we see somebody rolling the dice here in the next 10 laps. Maybe try to split this into 2 stops.
Yeah, 16 laps into the stint for everyone in the top 11. Aside, of course, from Phil Otto and Jake Fox, who are coming up to complete their 28th lap of this stint. Maybe they're the ones who are going to roll the dice. They are 10 laps separated from everyone else in terms of strategy.
And you notice here, riding on board with Sam Harper in the second position right here. He's flipping through the gears right now, just trying to keep that turbo spooled up, and he's going to take a shot right here for the lead. Banfield has a little bit of a gap up in front, and it looks like Banfield is going to change the tone of the race. He's going to get to the lead. Maybe Banfield is doing the math right now. He's probably slipped back at the fuel map 5 at this point, but move Harper back up to the lead. And then Partridge is going to be shooting alongside in the third position. Take a look at Blotcher right here, basically tail end of the lead lap of the top 11, with everybody else sort of kind of hanging out in that front group. Just sort of kind of ride back, just try to keep far enough away where if something goes wrong up front and there's another big circulatory wreck, he's got to be in a position to fall back and get away from it.
Nick Kuhn, our pole sitter, back in 10th place now. These guys have dropped Jason Lottridge. Not too sure what's going on for Lottridge right now. It just seems like he hasn't been able to keep the pace with everyone else. He's right at the tail end of the pack, and potentially he's trying something very different. Maybe he's going hard fuel save, try and take advantage of any potential cautions to come. Maybe he's the one who rolls the dice if we are green all the way to the end.
Just taking a look briefly at the lap times. Up at the front of the field, Banfield, Harper still trading blows for the lead. They're hanging out in the 32.8 to 33 flat second range. Lottridge was doing laps in the 33.3s, but now he's drafted back up. Just taking a couple of tenths here and there, trying to sip as much fuel as he can. But I'm looking at the middle of this group right here, alongside where Timothy Klaus is right now on the screen. Those vehicles are very close together. I would be wary of these guys potentially making a mistake and collecting a few of each other's.
I mean, this is...
You got to take risks though to fuel save. You got to be really, really close. Somebody just pulled down pitting. was a 17 car.
Hutchison
like-
is
yeah.
tailing. He's up at the front of the field, so he would definitely lose a lap at this particular point. And here we go. We start losing vehicles at the front. We lose one with Hutchison coming to the pits. So now that's a little bit more fuel that everybody else will have to spend on this run.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to be seeing another car come into the pits for a while. Hutchison completed 42 laps on this stint. Car that is that is the furthest into the stint right now is Phil Otto and Jake Fox. They're coming up to complete their 34th lap of this race. Ryan Steele, meanwhile, 38 laps completed on this stint, and he just makes it 39 as they come across the line. So keep an eye out for Ryan Steele potentially to be the next car to come into the lane. Getting a little bit close there through 1 and 2. That's Christian Abate who's down on the inside there. Abate down in 16th place and on the same strategy as Joshua Mertz, both of them getting back out after their crash. 23 laps will be completed when they cross the line for those two cars.
I've got to admit, boys, I'd be having a crack at the strategy right now. If I'm in Jake Fox or I'm in Phil Otto's shoes, I can't wait. By my math, we are 1 lap short on the longest stint that we've done today. Maybe 2 laps on the longest stints that have been run today. So what that says to me is, oh, hey, those guys are on the fuel safe strategy. They can't make it. Why am I helping? I want to disappear. I want to force people to freak out. Number one, I think it's hilarious. I love watching people panic behind a race car wheel. I think it's amazing watching the pack zig and zag. And I'm watching in the driver's seat right now. As soon as I commit to this strategy, number one, I'm gonna have a partner. Number two, I'd prefer if I had 2 of them, but I'll take one. I'll take somebody I can swap draft with every day of the week. That is my preferred strategy. Number 3, I'm watching those lap times, baby. My eyes on the straights are glued to that timing tower. I'm picking up as many lap times as I physically can see and going, yep, we're doing really well. The lap times are good to this section of the pack. The lap times at the front of the pack are really, really good. This is what we need to do. I am not waiting. The longer I wait, the worse it gets for me. I need as long as I physically have Phil Otto and Jake Fox working together to give myself the best chance. And you watch, as soon as all these lap cars peel off the front of this pack, everyone's gonna go, I don't wanna lead, I don't wanna lead, I don't wanna lead, I don't wanna lead. You wanna lead? You wanna lead? You wanna lead? No, you don't wanna lead? I don't wanna lead, I don't wanna lead. You'll see
after
it.
you, sir.
Watch it. Absolutely. When that lap comes, the games that go on at the front of the pack, they are something else.
And you know what else could be a game, Reese? Or it's got spare cars. There's only 7 vehicles left in this race that have a spare car available. They can take bigger risks. They can run closer to get to other people. Okay, sure, they might get caught up in a collision and have to tow, but they have that resource available to them. They can be a little nonchalant about where they position their car. Maybe scare one of these other cars like Christian Challenger, who still running inside the top 5, doesn't have that spare car. He hasn't had that in a very long time. Pretty much a whole official series race at that particular point. So, again, everybody's got different resources. Yeah.
Phil Otto's about to commit. Phil Otto's coming in next time.
Yeah, that's what I can see as well. I mean, Phil Otto and Jake Fox, they've both fallen to the back of the top 10. No chance of them coming in this time, but probably next time they will. They've just completed 40 laps on this stint. 60 laps remain in the Majors Wildcard here at Auto Club Speedway. This is the Pacific region. The Atlantic region is going to be taking place later on this weekend. You'll be able to catch that on our friends over at Global Sim Racing channel to see how the field tackles Pocono, which would ultimately offer up a very different race to the one we're seeing here at Fontana.
Yeah, really different race. The tires were a little bit more. Fontana, you can do a lot wider racing. Pocono, the groove's a lot narrower. So even though the corners are very similar width-wise, just with the racing group, it's very narrow, particularly coming off of turn 1. It's exceptionally narrow, so the racing is a completely different style. Tires do come into it a lot more at Pocono, and overtaking the leader is one of the most difficult things you can do.
In comes Phil Otto. He called it earlier on this lap. Now he's in the lane. And Jake Fox has decided he'll continue on for at least another lap here. Wondering if that was the right decision. Maybe Jake Fox would have wanted to work with Phil Otto here to the end.
Everything's a risk. Everything's a risk. Become a betting man. Time to go to Vegas. Why isn't this racetrack set in Vegas? Because, oh boy, there's some gambling that goes on when you come here. Take a risk. The big key to the back half of this race, you must take a risk to win. The true risks and the two opportunities are fuel strategy and going hard. The problem with the fuel strategy, I don't think anyone can make it. And when you commit to a fuel strategy, the problem you have, the single biggest problem is when you run out of gas, your pace plummets. If you mess it up, day done, you'll never get those spots back. So, what I like about the pace attack, going out there and going hard, I'm taking the race in both of my hands and I'm going, stop this, I'm going to drive this thing to the front, I'm going to drive it as hard as I physically can, and let's see what happens. You know, it's a ballsy call either way. The worst thing you can do is go on the line. You cannot straddle the line here. This race could not have been set up more perfectly. If you straddle the line, you will fall the wayside. Who's that going to be, boys?
Yeah, which side of the fence do you fall on? Can't afford to sit on that fence. It looks like Jake Fox is going to be peeling off now. In he comes. And it was a pretty quick stop for Phil Otto. 8.5 seconds stopped in the lane. I think one of the quickest trips through pit road we've seen all day long. The only person quicker than him, really, Brian Barnes and Christian Challoner, less than 38 seconds from lane entry to exit. And in green flag pit stops, that matters even more. Being able to get efficiently through pit lane, you know you're going to lose out about a lap, possibly more. Fox has just pulled out of the pit box as this pack comes by. He will fall a lap down. Where is Phil Otto is the question. It looks like he's a long way ahead now. We'll have to wait and see where this puts them. Actually, Phil Otto hasn't come out of the pits.
No,
Otto's not in the pits.
No, sorry.
He was back at the front stretch at the start finish line when Fox was pitting out. So these cars will have a couple of seconds separation. There is a chance that Fox could fall back to Otto and they could work together, perhaps mitigating the risk of coming down to pit road together and colliding or speeding. I mean, we've seen speeding tickets here before. These highway patrol officers are very, very strict on that entry. But in the meantime, at the front, working lap 37 of the stint before the main peloton right here. Again, now the window is technically open. How far will they go? Are they going to go run out this fuel tank, or are they going to get a little cheeky and try to split this into two or three pieces?
53 laps to go. We are almost 4/5 of the way through this race. Rubbing my hands together in glee right now. I love it when an oval race comes together at the end with, you know, just a few laps extra that you have to complete. You know, just a few laps short on the fuel. What do you do?
35, Greg McKinney's pitting in. I think he was at the front end of the pack that was trying to lead, so he's out of gas. The lead pack is about to lose all its assistance. I'm just watching Jake Fox. Jake Fox and Ryan Steele are working. They must have been listening, because Ryan is doing exactly what I said you needed to do. He's moving up the track, letting Jake try and slingshot it underneath. Jake didn't read it all that well the last time by, but he's going to get a mega run this time. So watch this. See how he's sitting 3/4 of the way up the track? I prefer my lead car against the fence, and Jake's just mistimed the run slightly. So the difficulty with that one is Jason Lottridge is they're inside his draft. So they're going to get a little bit of a draft assistance for the next couple laps. But have a look at this. They've cleared 3 seconds on Phil Otto since they come out of the pits. Remember how I was talking about swap drafting and how effective it is? We've only had a few laps. They've cleared 3 seconds. seconds on Phil Otto. 3 seconds.
That's insane. Yeah, the whole reason I made that flub about Phil Otto was I just couldn't find him on the track. I thought surely he'd be closer to Fox than that, but ultimately, yeah, he's been completely dropped. Well, we'll see McEnany, Stevens and McGreevy completing pit stops here. Drivers that are not quite in contention for the win, but have a look at the difference between Jake Fox and Phil Otto there, gaining in excess of a second on the previous lap there. That is how much that kind of swap drafting is worth.
It's not swap drafting. So what's conveniently happened there is that with Jake having a little bit of a back-off lap, then he caught up to Ryan Steele, went past him. As he cleared Ryan Steele, there was another car 9/10 of a second in front of him. So he got effectively a double draft, a double slipstream. So you won't see those sorts of numbers all the time. That's on Jake Fox.
All right, fair enough.
Whoa, what that?
Yeah, I could see, yeah, that's not the car Jake Fox is driving. Well, coming back out onto the track, staying nice and low to the apron. Further cars coming in. This is, looks like Joshua Mertz making his way into the lane from 14th spot. Meanwhile, here's Damien Colty on the replay. What's happened to him in the pit lane? Slowing down for the box and
too far left
up on the way in. Oh yeah, too far to the left. That's so important in IndyCar, isn't it, Lynn? You've got to make sure that you are within those margins for your pit crew to actually get the pit stop started. You've got to be inch perfect on the way in.
By the way, Jake Fox just made up on the last 3 laps 6/10, 6/10, 4/10 on Sam Harper. I'm about to get another lap time for you to come across as well. 6/10. He's already ripped about 4 seconds out of these guys up ahead. He is doing really, really well right now. He is. Remember what I was saying before? Time to rip and tear? Oh, he ripping and he tearing.
Yeah, this is great from Jake Fox. Excellent form that he's seeing right now. There's the gaps there on screen. Half a second and more per lap on the man who is leading the race. And guess what lap Sam Harper is on this stint? 45. He's going to have to come in, I think.
Next time. But critically, that's just about in the range. These guys are in the range. They're making the fuel mileage that they need to make. The problem is, their pace is horrible. It is terrible. Is it enough to cover up a pit stop? Right now it is. Just. Jake Fox won't quite get back to them. And the problem now, Jake's run out of handy drafting partners ahead. He's now got to try and overtake these guys on pace.
In they come. Sam Harper, Mike Wagner, Ross Banfield, and Ray Partridge. Partridge has already completed his pit stop there and will make his way back out on track. The Challener's going to continue on an extra lap here. They are within the range, Lynn, to get to the end from here, but as Scott highlighted, their pace won't be that great.
And you could eliminate Sam Harper from this mix because the bubblegum machine done hit the jackpot and tagged him at the entrance to pit road with a black flag, so he's going to have to come back at some point to serve that. Meanwhile, Challenger just laps off, able to extend this stint, and somehow, again, the former DWC driver at the front has managed to pop off a miracle. He's gone further than anybody else at this particular stage besides, well, anybody else. Nick Boone just came in pits on the 46th lap. Let's see if Challenger comes in at this particular point. Yes, he does. That is 1 extra lap in the bank that he does not have to worry about. He can spend a little bit of extra fuel every lap from here on out.
I love how this race has come together.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it? The critical thing is, when this all cycles out, Jake Fox is going to have the lead by a significant stretch. But he can't make it. How great is that?
Yeah. That is the big question for Jake Fox, you know.
No, I don't think anyone else... By the way, have a look at what's happened to everyone else. 3rd through 8th are all in a pack together. Every single one of those guys is going, I don't want to lead. Boys, I can't lead. I'm not going to lead. You guys need to lead. And everyone else is going, I'm not going to lead. I'm good, thanks. You guys need to lead. So they can't make it. These guys can't make it. And if Challenger feeds into that pack, he's in a hole. Challenger's going to feed into that pack, boys. He can't make it. I don't think he can make it. The pace is going to switch up so much. Challenger, he's tight. He is so tight.
The only thing that's going to help anyone out now is a caution. That'll put everyone back on the same strategy. That'll ensure that they all have the fuel to get to the end. If the race stays green, then I think quite a few people are in trouble.
The only thing that I can see that would be marginally beneficial to maybe Ross Banfield, he has a teammate available. Timothy Klaus, currently sitting here in the 5th position, is on the lead lap, and if he can get in front of Banfield, yeah, actually, hold the phone. Let's take a look at the front. We're looking at Jake Fox right there in the lead, but cycle that camera back. Challenger managed to catch this draft. He's going to be in this breakaway all by himself once the pit cycle completes its way out. And somehow, again, Christian Challenger has snuck another miracle in front of everybody. He has managed to pull off the same thing that happened at the Speedway 500. He's gotten away, the leader has gotten away from everybody alone, and he's going to have all of the help in the world to save the field and win this race.
Yeah, he's right in the middle of that pack now. He can afford to run that lower fuel map and lift off a little bit into the corners, but you see the aggression here that Challenger is displaying. He's probably going to try and go for it here on Jake Fox. He wants to try and get the track position for the lead, but stay behind this trio of lapped cars ahead of him. Abate, McAnini, and Steele. Abate down in 17th, McAnini and Steele fighting over 11th at the moment. Jake Fox now responding to try and get past the both of them and keep Challenger behind.
Justin Morton is Ross Banfield's biggest friend right now. Banfield is just sitting here going, please, please come back here. I need some help, please, sir.
We're hearing that Wayne Hutchison got a black flag here for a big trip across the infield grass, and he ends up hitting the cone or just passing by pit exit there. He got a black flag for that, but it looks like it's been cleared by race control. So yeah, a little bit of a nightmare for Hutchison for a moment, but it's all over now. At least, you know, if he can fight his way any further forward, it'll be less of a nightmare. It's been an up and down race for so many drivers here today. And we still don't know exactly who's going to take victory, but right now, it looks like Christian Challenger is best placed. He's just moved into the lead over Jake Fox.
I don't know about you, Scott, but I'd never liked that green cone sitting that far out there in the track. That thing has been weaponized more often than perhaps maybe the blue cone elsewhere. Literally, that's the end of the pit timing sequence, so it is possible to go from the racing surface, and if you nick that cone, as Hutchinson did, you'll get a speeding ticket in that final section, but obviously he was taking evasive action. We don't want to risk an adverse transition up onto the track. Race control decided to reward his valor and clear that penalty that really shouldn't be a penalty at that point on the track.
You can nick that cone with your left side tires. If you touch that cone in any way, shape, or form in iRacing, it's like, no, there'll be no cone death today.
Yeah, Cone Protection Society running iRacing at the moment. Well, 35 laps will remain here.
We're in a holding pattern.
Yeah. Everyone's just holding station. You know, Challenger and Fox, they're behind lap cars. They're saving as much fuel as they can. But don't forget, Jake Fox, he's 21 laps into this stint and we still have 35 laps to go. He will 100% fall when he inevitably has to take his next pit stop, with probably about a maximum of 10 laps remaining on the ticker, but this could change it. Caution's out. Everyone's going to come in. Guaranteed.
We have some repeat visitors to the caution board right here, and our old friend, the green cone, has attacked. Take a look at the replay right here. Obviously, Oh,
okay.
Mertz get wiping out into the process. I thought the cone did the striking, but he was just sort of kind of sitting there like the Roadrunner in the Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
Yeah. Looks like 3 meatball flags from that incident. So how that happened was it looked like Colty potentially had an issue on the apron. He just slid a little bit and slowed down. Mertz checked up to avoid him, and Phil Otto just tagged Mertz. And unfortunately, that's ruined everything for those 3 cars. Well, this is the view on board from Mertz. You'll see that Colty just dips a little bit below. He was already getting some big momentum, but there's that little micro slide there. Checks up, and then there was that little touch from Phil Otto behind, and around he went. Oh, looks like Jason Lottridge involved in that one too, in the 03. So Lottridge to the pits now. And everyone is coming into the lane, and they're definitely going to top up their tanks and have just enough fuel to make it the final 32 laps of this race. They'll be going for tyres as well. This is a reset for everybody.
Pretty much just taking this event from a potentially grandstand fuel save finish. We're going to throw that out the window. We're just going to run a good old-fashioned Indy fix-it race.
Hell yeah, love it.
Challenge. It's difficult. Somebody just jumped on and said, lap down cars that aren't necessarily in the race. They are in the race. That's IndyCar racing, and you'll take a look around, and this is the difference between road course racing and oval racing. Is you've got to maintain your lap. You drop off the lead lap, your day can be done from 1 lap down in IndyCar. In IndyCar it can. NASCAR, you always feel like you've got an opportunity to get back, right? And you race amongst yourself. But in IndyCars, it's actually far more important to stay on that lead lap and in the cycle and in the window. So people are annoyed, sure, but this is just a different breed, a different style of racing. And, you got to take with that with what it comes.
Interesting call from Mike Wagner here. He stayed out. Currently coming up to 13 laps into this stint. This caution is going to be an opportunity for him to save some fuel. When we get back to green flag racing, I think there'll be 29 laps remaining. Should be able to extend that out. I think everyone else is going to have a slight tyre advantage. But for the time being, Wagner, yes, he might have to save a bit of fuel under green flag, but I think he's still in this.
I kind of wonder if that's a tactical decision, not necessarily to save fuel, but to keep a few cars pinned down. You see one car getting away from around the 9 of Justin Morton from 2 down, but that by staying out, that denies the wave around privilege to Christian Abate, who's their second in the line, and that's potentially eliminating one competitor from this finish. That I could tell.
Kinda. He's still 12th for Christian Abate. I think he's one of the only cars now that's actually at 1 lap down. So, but yeah, he'll be frustrated with that one. He'll restart 12th. He'll have an opportunity. From Wagner, this becomes a track position race. Tires are important, but you've only got 10 laps in those tires. Clean air, if you can get clean air and look after the tyres whilst running up front, that's actually more important. He was struggling to cut his way through the traffic. And remember, he was off cycle too. He was within that group that was off cycle, I thought. Now he's back at the front point of the race. Now he has an opportunity to try and lead some laps and see what he can do for it. Yeah. He was sitting back in the midfield before. Why not? Have a crack.
Yeah, that's it. I think having a crack has been the defining statement of this race, and it's worked out better for some than it has for others. Green flag flies, and Mike will lead us away here. 30 laps remaining at Fontana.
Another caution is going to come out right here.
Oh,
there is
yeah.
a stack up in the backfield. The accordion is in effect, and you can implement once the flip counter as well, as we see Dan Stevens upsides down.
Not the first middle finger racing car we've seen upside down today. I believe Gav Barber, when the sun was out, did that. And It looks to me like a problem for Stephen Paulison. So there was a checkup in the sort of back end of the top 10. And Paulison ran right into the back of Brian McGreevy. That sent him sideways, and Stevens could not react in time. You'll see it here. There's the checkup. The power gets put down, but then there's that hesitation. There's the checkup. There's Paulison going around, and Stevens just gets sent sky high.
He instituted a 4-point barrel roll. That's got extra difficulty associated with it. These aren't jumpy trucks, so pulling that off definitely gets some points from the judges. Look, the rolls look very, very pretty. He didn't quite stick the landing rolls. He's going to lose a few points for that, boys. I'm going to throw to you guys for points on the barrel rolls here, and now the onboard view from the cockpit.
Yeah,
this is going to be an e-ticket ride.
Oh yeah, certainly it is. Make sure that you've got a bucket ready, because up and around he goes, looking at the tarmac, then the sky. Dear oh dear. And the nose cone decides it's finally had enough. And I think that might just be the end of Dan Stevens' race. That's the biggest crash that we've seen so far from him. He was one of the guys to use his spare car very early on, and he managed to survive, albeit many laps down. Unfortunately, he won't see the checkered flag, but crucially, he did make it past the minimum distance for points. A lot of drivers have. There are still 5 cars left with their spare cars. We see Steele and McEnany coming into the lane, and Paulison and McGreevy as well. I'm pretty sure they're going to be in for quite some time with the damage that they've sustained. So, really, it's a race for our top 10. That's pretty much all you've got.
Can I be an annoyed commentator for a minute? I went back and looked at that restart, and the pace car speed is by default set to 70 miles an hour. I looked at Wagner as the pace car pulled off. He backed it up to about 65 miles an hour before gunning it for the restart, and I think that was just enough to cause that accordion in the back, because 5 miles an hour at the front ends up being 10 to 15 in the back, well beyond what Scott was saying is the recommended range for speed difference. And that, I think you kind of have to stick that on the 0.6 for having a hand in it.
It's the difficult factor is when you look at and compare IndyCar racing to NASCAR racing, NASCAR restarted too wide. So you effectively got to double the length of the field for each individual car that's running. And for each car, you sort of add a multiplier that accordion effects effectively. So, you're seeing a little bit of chat about, somebody was trying to jump the start earlier. They're not. You can see, Dan Stevens is not trying to jump the start. There is no attempt to jump the start. What he's seeing is the 5 cars in front of him going. So he goes with, there's a green flag. And it's not until well after the actual green flag is actually dropped that it kicks off. So
you do always have to be aware of that potential accordion effect, but when you're in it, when you've committed to putting the power down and the cars ahead of you slow up out of nowhere, there's not much you can do really. Just you talked earlier, Scott, about how well these cars slow down, especially compared to other cars that race on ovals, but they still take a bit to slow down. They have to run the brake bias a long way to the front just to avoid the rear end coming round. You get on the stop pedal, the front tires are loaded up. It doesn't matter what kind of corrections you make, it's very hard to avoid.
And there's reaction time. And if everyone reacted the instant the car, if there was brake lights, everyone would react a lot quicker. There's no brake lights. You're waiting on a balance change. On the car's like, oh my.
Stevens has managed to recover.
What? All right. Well, scratch what I said before. Only 2 laps lost there for Dan Stevens. He'll be up to speed, and just in time for Mike Wagner to bring us to yet another restart here, potentially the final restart with 26 laps remaining here at Auto Club Speedway. Immediately to the inside goes Christian Abate. He's going to be the lap car here racing at the front, and this will help out Mike Wagner quite a bit. Ross Banfield going to the lead. Jake Fox with a big charge up the front. Christian Challoner's going to try and follow them here. And I think this is a good decision from Mike. He'll take this opportunity and save a little bit more fuel.
I think he's got enough. He should have enough. You know, the couple caution laps there, more than enough to save the fuel that he necessarily needed. So he should be good in terms of fuel strategy, and you'll see it. He'll have a go back at these guys, because why not? And guess who? Christian Challoner back at the point.
Yeah. Let's see what he can do from here. Ray Partridge and Timothy Klaus also in the midst of all of this. They're just trailing off Wagner at the moment. Nick Kuhn, remember, P7. There he is up high, just ahead of Timothy Klaus. Nick was the pole setter. He was the one who started up the front some hour and God knows how long ago. This is well over 2 hours now, I think, that this race has been going on. So after all of that, after all the work, after all the ups and downs that you've suffered over the course of this race, it comes down to the end of this 500-mile campaign. Who's going to come out on top? Banfield in the lead for the time being, but Jake Fox is getting a tiny bit of side draft off him potentially. On the outside, though, 3 wide.
I was about to say, and again, as we've seen earlier in this race, a lap down car is taking up a whole lane. Banfield has been desperately trying to dispatch Abate to get to the front by himself. Look at the run time right there, 2 hours, 35 minutes. That may be a long time in the commentary booth. That is an eternity behind one of these Indy cars. You expect to have an entire Speedway 500 done by this point. We're still 25 laps to go here, about coming to 22 to go. And again, they're packing up 3 wide. You'd think this is the start of the Indy 500, but no, it's almost to the final 10th of the race.
Here we go then. It's an out-and-out race, right to the end. Look at the run from Timothy Klaus here. He caught that slipstream off the back of Jake Fox. And staking his claim up high. Abate still at the front of the pack, but remember, Abate's down in 11th. Oh, Challoner getting onto the apron. Oh no! Oh, it's all gone wrong here. Multiple cars involved in this. Remember, Challoner used his spare car earlier on. That rear right suspension looks completely destroyed. That might be the end of the championship leaders race.
That was just 4 wide was not going to work, especially with 2 cars bobbling at the same time. We'll have to take a look at the replay to see exactly what went wrong. I can say for certain that Jake Fox had a little bit of a hand in it, but I'm looking at the Challenger machine live. We'll take a look at the replay right here. Again, see, Klaus is kind of pinching Fox right here in the middle of the corner. They get onto the front straightaway. Partridge machine gets up to the high side. Fox trying to find a little bit of slipstream, knocks Challenger into the apron, but then Klaus gets clobbered, and that sends everybody to the wreckers.
Yeah, I could see a little bit in the apron there. I think on the transition back onto the racetrack, Challoner was just trying to recover and he pushed up the racetrack a little bit. And I think there might have been a bit of netcode contact between himself and Jake Fox. That's what drew Fox into Challoner at that point. And then, unfortunately, a secondary incident just behind them, Klaus versus Harper, it looked like. We'll see you on board here from Wagner, so keep an eye out here. Challoner and the white car up ahead, transitions back, and then Fox gets sucked into him, and then in response, you see, the dip down there from Timothy Klaus. I think that was in reaction to Jake Fox coming up ahead of him. Maybe a little jerk to the left on the steering wheel from the number 80, and that brought him down into Harper, and they ultimately both collected Challoner. That's going to be tough for race control to pick apart.
There is so much that goes on in that, and you guys have no idea. Because, again, it all happens in moments, right? So, It's millimeter. I think you're right. It's on Klaus because Klaus is the car that's wiggling. He's the car that's making the most movement, and he's trying to take a hole, but there's really no hole to take.
But at the same time, all of that was happening right in front of him with the Fox and Challenger. You get, and Scott, you could attest to this, I bet. You glance left or right in these Indy cars, and with how heavy their steering is, that momentary lapse of concentration just moves the wheel 1 or 2 degrees either way, and the car's going to shoot off in that particular direction. So it's not surprising that was an accordion effect that just came together.
It's the issue is Klaus. I think Klaus responds to Fox shooting up the track. That's what the issue is. So it's Jake is nearly the cause of the incident, but still, it's the over response from the driver. Nothing further would have happened if everyone holds that line. I'm gonna be honest. I think Klaus actually lost perspective of where the lanes are, because you got to remember this front straight isn't straight; it's curved. So he's potentially straightened his wheel out, but you actually need to sort of let it keep drifting a little bit to the right. So he's just lost relative where he is. And like you said, we're doing, at the moment of contact there, I've got him at 354 k's. This is late race IndyCar stuff. You've got to, if you give up track position right now, you never get it back. So you got to be aggressive. You've got to take the run when you get it and when you get an opportunity. And yeah, Klaus had more room to move up than he did move down, so he was 100% just not sure who it was in the incident. So.
Well, ultimately, Jake Fox has been given incident responsibility by race control and has been given an end-of-line penalty as a result. So, there's probably going to be plenty of discussions going on between race control and the drivers after this one. It seems like a caution fest bookending the race. We had that huge run of green flag stints in the middle and towards the end, but as soon as that caution came out some laps ago, I think everything just everything just devolved. What this is doing is it is helping out the drivers that stayed out, but unfortunately, Mike Wagner was the only one who really had something to play with in terms of fuel saving, and he was involved in that incident, as we saw. He's in the pits. He has been for the last 4 minutes. Yeah, he's done. So that's got a sting for Wagner. A chance to win this race has slipped away from him. Now, Ross Banfield's in the box. Cedars again. Oh, these restarts. What is going on?
That brings out another caution, another accordion effect.
Oh.
Have to see what happened to Fox there. Probably running out of position real quick. Eyeball and Partridge right here. Currently up in the second position. That is an excellent run for him right there, but he wasn't anywhere near this incident. Let's take a look at the Space-Time Rewind replay right here. Jake Fox trying to get back into formation here because of the EOL penalty, and he's way back. And I think we know what's going to happen here in 3, 2, 1. Oops.
Yeah, remember what we were saying before? You can't pass down low on the restart. So, oh man, he realized that too late, had to slam on the brakes and then got slammed in the rear himself.
And that's just so he's responded to the green flag and not to the cars ahead, and you can't respond to the green flag. You gotta respond to the cars.
Oh, he just got completely rear-ended there. And I mean,
and it's not really
no fault on the car behind, to be honest.
Yeah, that's effectively the car just stopping directly. It's akin to a brake check. I know it's not an attempt at a brake check from Jake, so it sounds bad. They're going in his direction. There's no attempt at a brake check. It's just I've got to, yeah. I tend, in these style of moments from what everyone's doing, I always try and offset myself half a wing so I can see, I can see anything,
But at the same time,
go ahead.
I was going to say, you're on board with Joseph Homan right here. You're 12 laps down at this particular point of the race. You're probably maybe just chalking to the Discord, and then all of a sudden, hello, car in your face, and then all of a sudden you're having to go file an insurance claim, and it's not going to be very pretty.
Yeah. Homan to be very frustrated at that. He was letting Fox go there, and then I mean, he probably would have just seen it too late what was happening. He was focusing on getting on the power and trying to stay in touch with the cars ahead, and then out of nowhere, Jake Fox ends up making the pass on the inside, which you are not allowed to do on restarts in IndyCar, and just slows down, slams on the brakes, and I mean, what do you do at that stage?
It's because he's trying to adjust to the position due to being penalised with the URL late on. It's tricky. I mean, it's a late reassignment, reordering. It is what it is, right? It's late in the race. Everyone's tired. Everyone's been in the sim now for what are we up to? 2 hours 45 minutes.
Plus whatever practice that they've done. So you're potentially looking at 3 to 4 hours. That's a very long time to be in one place at any particular point. Let me go on a completely utter different tangent right here. Let me do some back of the napkin math right here. With Christian Challenger currently out of the race, he's sitting in the pits 4 laps down and climbing. He will currently score about 168 points from this particular spot. Ross Banfield is leading the race, coming to 1 to go with 14 laps to go. It pays 250 points to win. Without taking into account the drop weeks, you get 1 for road and 1 for oval. There's a distinct possibility that Challenger could drop as far as potentially, I want to say 17th place. That's potentially a 100-point swing in the cards if Ross Banfield is able to close this out and win this event.
Yeah, so with only 1 round of the majors to go after this, Formula 1 at Zandvoort, that means that Challenger might be in a bit of danger, but how much danger remains to be seen. I think Challenger has had consistency on his side for this whole season, so I don't think he'll be in too much trouble, but it's still worth keeping in the back of your mind that decrease in the points gap for the lead of the championship coming from this event, and of course, as you said, Lynn, that is not taking into account drop rounds just yet. Regardless, lights are off on the pace car, and Ross Banfield is going to lead us away with 13 laps to go. And we still have 5 cars on the lead lap here, any of which could ultimately take victory. In fact, having said that, as the green flag flies, that car in 5th place is Christian Abate. There's another checkup. Oh, God. They got to be careful. Fortunately, they avoid bringing themselves into strife. But yeah, worth pointing out, Christian Abate. We thought he would have been out of this, but these cautions have really helped him.
And I mean, he's on as close to as fresh rubber as you can potentially get, so he's going to get the freshest rubber of anyone. There's not a huge deal of time, not a huge deal of peat on the tires ahead of him, but it's an advantage. Any small advantage at this point in time is huge.
Yeah, it's only a small advantage of about a wing and the front wheels there for Ray Partridge across the line, but Banfield has the inside line to begin lap 239 of 250. Nick Kuhn sitting there in 3rd place. He wants to go from pole to win. He's in a great position to get that done. Ryan Steele, another car who we saw was a lap down just half an hour ago. We didn't think he was necessarily part of the picture, but now he is. Same for Christian Abate. This is a really interesting race. 5 cars in contention for victory now right at the end, and we still don't know who's going to come out on top.
It's a 55-point swing from winning the race to position number 5. That could potentially lose Ross Banfield a chance to win the Pacific title at this particular point. But he has to contend right now with the here and now. It's 25 points between first and second. Partridge is battling him on the outside. Steele looking for that third lane, potentially to try to make this a 3-wide battle. Banfield just barely able to get out for the moment. He leads another lap.
4 wide just about. Easy does it. We don't want to see that sort of stuff until the final lap, if at all.
Hey, now I want to see us top that Speedway 500 finish from a couple years ago, where we were going 4 wide with the IRO1, and that was a pretty incredible finish. And we still have 10 laps to go to set that up.
Oh yeah, we certainly do. Still have great memories of that finish. That was a magnificent end to an absolute classic race. Maybe this will end up turning into one of those. 3 wide for second through to 5th. Banfield all alone on the bottom here, punching the hole through the air. No one is going to have any fuel issues. No one's going to have any tire issues, so to speak. It's all out and out racing right to the end. It's all about, do you have your wake jacker sorted? Do you have your anti-roll bars sorted? Is your car handling the way you want it to right at the end here on a rubbered up and cool track? Now 24 degrees Celsius.
So the big thing here is watch these guys back it off now. Nick Kuhn has got the second best spot on the racetrack. Ross Banfield's got the best one. You can just about defend this place from the bottom lane. And Ray Partridge just moved up out of the middle groove. He was actually in a primary spot as well. And then you've got the lap cars. All of these lap cars want their lap back. The reason they want their lap back, could you imagine we get another caution right now? We go from, we're not going to go from 5 cars on the lead up to 6. But they move 1 lap further back forwards. And they're also fighting for positions as well.
Yikes!
Oh, almost contact there.
He did clobber the back of Steele, and somehow that wasn't enough to upset the 12 or the 19 right there. 8 Timothy Klaus. Again, he's 2 laps down. He could have gotten back 1, but at this point, he's a teammate of Ross Banfield. Is he just running defensive for him?
There is a chance, but he needs to be careful not to make too heavy contact there as Ryan Steele in the sandwich at the moment. Christian Abate now switching a little bit further down low. Saw him have a little problem up the top just a few moments ago. Nearly pushed wide into the wall. But I think he's all right for the time being. Steele versus Banfield. Nick Kuhn on the inside there. In the slipstream of Banfield down low. We're coming up to 5 laps to go here at Fontana.
Here we go.
2.5 minutes left in this race.
And most importantly, point of no return is rapidly approaching. With lap down cars, we're looking at a minimum 4-lap caution, and the stewards will not shorten these caution periods at any time. The next flag, be it the white flag or the caution flag, will signal the end of the race.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where things get really tense. 4 laps to go now across the line. The run is almost there for Ryan Steele around the outside, but I think if Banfield's on the inside coming out of turn 4 here at the end, I think he might have it.
It absolutely does. You got to defend from the bottom. You can overcome the bottom lane. It is possible. What it takes is somebody to get a run, and then somebody else to also take that run and slingshot around the outside. I was talking to some really, really old Indy bodies when I was originally learning this car, and I got taught by some really, really high-level tutors, and they said, if you've got the bottom, you're in the primary seat. It's going to take 2 guys working together to your outside to get the job done. And there was one time that ever came up for me, and one chance I absolutely had to take it, and I was still a rookie in the car at this point in time, and I said to myself, oh, I can't take this run, I've got to protect my teammate, I've really got to look after him, he's sitting in second, and my teammate screamed at me on disco, no, Scotty, no, you could have won that race right there. Nobody, I can tell you, looking at these guys right here, they can't pick it up. This is Ross Banfield's to lose, not the other way around.
Yeah, Ryan Steele, you saw almost committed to sitting behind him, but he had to get back to the outside because you're seeing these runs from Christian Abate and Ray Partridge up the top. They're getting that momentum out of the corners, but I don't know if they have the space to translate it into a run here. Halfway round the back stretch, they're going to be coming up to the white flag very shortly.
Abate's looking for the hole. He's looking for the hole towards the bottom. That's not going to open up. If you try and shove a wing there, he's going to turn down and wreck the field and be race over. So he had to try and take it somewhere. He got loose as well. Here we go. White flag, one more lap, 2 miles to go.
It has been a grueling race here, 500 miles around Auto Club Speedway for 29 competitors here in Split 1 of the Pacific region of the Majors Series. Washing up a little bit is Ryan Steele. He might still have it. Here's a run from Ray Partridge. It's going to be 3 wide for the lead coming into turn 3, but I think Banfield still has it here. He's got the geometric fastest line around the circuit. He's just about ahead of Ryan Steele on the run up to the line. It's going to be a photo finish here, and Steele's going to get it. No, Banfield's going to get it. Yep.
No.
0-1-4 is the margin of victory between Ross Banfield and Ryan Steele. The fireworks going off on the backstretch, but more importantly, we have a championship fight to go into the next round.
Yeah, Banfield getting maximum points from that mere 14 thousandths of a second over Ryan Steele. Oh, man, you know what? For all of the dramas, all of the cautions, I think that finish made it all worth it.
And the big kicker was the guy that sat in maybe the best seat to nick it off him was actually Chris Abate coming off of turn 2. And Ray Partridge just slammed that door closed. He said, nope, this one is mine. If the checkers was flown about halfway to 2/3 of the way down the back straightaway, we'd be crowning Ray Partridge a champion. But it's not. It's off of turn 3 and it's off of turn 4. And the advantage on the bottom line off of 4 always goes the bottom way. You've got to get a nose clearly ahead. And the guys in the middle and top absolutely had that nose clearly ahead, but they needed to shut it down. They just couldn't get there. So great job everyone involved. What a race.
Yeah, what a race indeed. Magnificent. And the celebrations will begin at Udox Lola and Dog Bear. Just an awesome finish. It ultimately came down to only 5 cars being in contention for victory. But all the same, you know, you don't need an entire field in contention to have an exciting finish. And the 777 of Ross Banfield going to have something more to fight with when we head to Zandvoort in a few weeks' time to end the Majors Pacific region for 2024. So here are your official results then, unofficial I should say, pending further race control decisions. Banfield, 0-1-4 of a second ahead of Ryan Steele. Christian Abate getting onto the podium, and it was only a mere 100th back to Ray Partridge. Nick Kuhn rounding out the top 5 there. They were the only finishers on the lead lap. Morton, Klaus, and Barnes 2 laps down. Dan Stevens making it back into the top 10 after the race he had. That is just magnificent to see. And Stephen Paulison 7 laps down, rounding out our top 10. Lynn, that was incredible.
Absolutely a spectacular finish. The entire top 5 within a 1/10 of a second of each other. Take a look at the remainder of the results. Everybody on this page right here having significant issues throughout the race. Greg McAnamy 11th, Brian McGreevy 12th for Udox Lola, Jake Fox for the Kingsman, Mike Wagner for Evolve Sim Sports, I believe that's a Canadian squad, Phil Otto, Christian Challenger P16, that's about 150 points for that position, so that's a 100-point swing between him and Banfield. Continuing on, Sam Harper running for Fusion, along 21 laps down, along with Rain Hutchison for Dog Bear Bark. Then you have Joseph Holman for Udox Frank, the junior squad, Jason Lottridge for Fusion Silver, rounding out the top 20.
In 21st position, Joshua Mertz, a driver who was in contention for that victory some time ago, but ultimately involved in a couple of caution-causing incidents. Same for Damien Colty, a further 2 laps behind. And then we get into retirement territory. This is the junkyard, headed up by Gav Barber, Robert Northway, and Stuart Elder. Pataska, Jackson, Foster, and Tilson rounded out our field there. Robert Deloach, he managed to grab pole position for split 2, which was taking place concurrently with this, but that is your field, and well, that's going to round things off here. For the results, of course, we're going to have a chat to our race winner here, Ross Banfield, coming across the line in a photo finish there. It must have been a tough race, but that finish was worth it.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. It was pretty uncertain the entire way through, and I knew with that set I had, it was really good on the inside and also just in the draft, but it was lacking on the outside, and it just didn't have like that passing speed if someone was on the inside. So once I had that inside, I knew I just had to hold it till the end.
Well, maximum points for you from this round, and there's potential for you to be in championship contention coming into the final round of the season, F1 at Zandvoort. I think everyone can agree that Challen is probably the best placed on that combo, but as we've seen, it all went wrong for Challenger here today. It could happen again in a few weeks' time.
We'll see. Yeah, I'm definitely an open wheel specialist when it comes to like Formula 1 cars. That's usually my bread and butter. Oval is the exact opposite, so I think it'll definitely be down to the wire.
Yeah, certainly will. And I mean, just your thoughts on the way this race panned out with, you know, the pack racing, the amount of care that you had to take in those packs.
To be honest, the first, I'd say like not even first, but like 3/4 of the race was just fuel save. It was just deciding if we could stretch it out and make it a 1 or 2 stopper, and then once the caution came out, then it was, no more fuel saving. But until then, it was just everyone, field map 5, just coasting around the track. Not too much action, just trying to stay up front and avoid the carnage behind.
Well, that's exactly what you did, Ross, and the checkered flag is yours at the end of the day. Is there anyone you want to give a shout out to for your result?
Yeah, just the UDOX team. Like, I'm really bad at oval sets, so we had some solid set workers on the team that were helping us out, like Joe. Definitely really helped me get up front, because without that Q set, I possibly could have been stuck in the second split, which would have dashed the season championship.
Well, congratulations, Ross, and hopefully we get a chance to speak to you again when we end things off at Zandvoort.
Thanks.
Ross Banfield there, winning the race. In second place, stood by with Scott Rankin. Ryan Steele with a big run to the finish.
Oh, Ryan, I'll tell you what, buddy, if that would have been thrown down the back straight away and checkered flag had come out there, you would have been celebrating like an absolute madman. You come home with P2. What a mental race. Tell us about the last 2.5 hours of your life.
You want to talk about a roller coaster of emotions today. I entered qualifying thinking like, man, I'm going to be lucky if I make top split. I have no idea how fast this qualifying setup is. We're almost always garbage when we run an IndyCar. So, I'll throw it out there. Probably get, 30th place for a lap time and then be in the second split all day. And then I get second, my teammate gets first and third, and I'm like, wow, we had a good qualifying setup. What happened? And then we go out there, and 5 laps later, half of us are in the fence, and I'm 2 laps down after having to tow to the pit box, and I'm like, well, this race is over. I sent a message to my friends who were watching. I'm like, yeah, don't bother watching the rest of the race. This is over. And it took a long time, but I actually managed to get the 2 laps up, and I mean, I'm kind of shaken just because I was fully expecting the other shoe to drop and I'll get caught in a wreck and finish 20 laps down anyway. Or not 20 laps down, but 20th, whatever. But yeah, I'll take a second.
Yeah, wild ride. I mean, I was telling these guys from this is my bread and butter, is the good old Dallara IR IR18. I nearly forgot the car name. I was just that excited with the finish. I tell you what. But getting laps back, you just had to strategize. You had to drive hard. You zigged. You spent the whole day going, man, look, it's not my day today. I'm just going to be chilling out. We're just going to be trying to do things. Did you find anyone that you could really work together with there that gave you the opportunity to get back on the lead lap?
I mean, I tried working together with some guys. The most frustrating thing for me actually was every time I was alongside the leader when I was trying to get my laps back, someone would take me 3 wide, and I'm like, man, you're not helping right now. Like, I understand you've got the run, you want to take it, but it was, I don't know. I felt like I had the advantage when I was 2 wide, at least to the point where I could get in front some of the time. But then once there was a third car there, I was like, I'm terrified because I might get right rear hooked and my day actually done. And so sometimes when I was in that position, I was like, nope, all right, I'm backing out of this. I'll let you guys fight. But yeah, I mean, like the whole beginning portion of the race after I got wrecked, I was just trying to save fuel, trying to make the strategy fit so I could get my laps back. And then there were a few times where I'm like, I might be fast enough to just go up there and get the lap back the hard way. I don't even know how I got my laps back, to be honest. I don't know what happened. This race was a mess.
Mate, finally, congratulations. Is there anyone you'd like to give a big old shout out to for watching along, being along for the ride, and making it happen for you?
As always, I've got to thank the Dog Bear team. In particular, I got to thank Wayne for finding the setups that we were going to run the race, and Nick for selecting what our qualifying setup was going to be, because those 2 things basically made the whole day. It definitely wouldn't have been possible without them. And I got to thank you guys for coming to the series.
Thank you very much for your time. Pleasure chatting, and go celebrate, because I feel like there's a few fist bumps because you sound quite pumped up.
Yeah, that was I don't know. I don't even know what right kind of word I want to use. Like, it was stressful, it was fun, it was terrifying. I don't even know if I think that's a positive or a negative thing. It was just all the things.
Congratulations, man. Have a great night.
Yeah, thank you.
Ryan Steele there, and finally our last podium sitter stood by with Lynn Kinchelo, Christian Abate with a massive comeback.
Christian, from what it looked like up at the booth, it was like you were up and down the running order. You wrecked a few times, you came back, you managed to get third. How are you feeling after that?
Pretty excited about that one. That was definitely a up and down race for sure. Luckily didn't get caught up in any of the wrecking at the start of the race, so I was able to hold on to that faster pair to bail me out there at the end, which was kind of nice. But unfortunately, I had a tow, a really long tow, which set me back, and I was able to get the positioning right and some cautions to come out too as well towards the end there to get back into it.
What was the setup like for you? Who did you build your set, or how was that associated with your team?
Yeah, Christian Challenger was able to get a set together for us, so it was good to bounce a few ideas off of one another and just mainly get a qualifying set together and make the top split. I mean, I think we probably shared about the same uncertainty with everyone else of what the time was going to be like to get into top split, this top split here. So that it was just good that we were able to get in. Both Christian and Brent, my 2 teammates, were able to get in pretty easily, and I don't know what happened on my lap, but I just kind of barely made it in by the skin of my teeth with this one. But anyways, happy with how the race set went, and was able to just make my way up steadily.
But you did make it in, and you made it up onto the podium. Is there anybody you'd like to shout out before we close this interview out?
I just want to say thank you to all the majors guys for putting this event on. It can get a little messy with these high-speed ovals, but I mean, honestly, like that last restart there is definitely what you get with this group of guys. I mean, between Ray and Nick, I mean, the 3 of us were 3 wide for those last 10 laps practically, which was great stuff and great driving by them, and massive respect to those guys. Thank you to you guys for put on the broadcast. I mean, it definitely makes these events come to life a little bit more. And also thanks to my teammates Christian and Brent for coming out tonight. Brent had a little unfortunate incident earlier on, and it seems Christian got also caught up in one of the later ones too, which stunk. But we were all charging forward pretty well, and definitely we're in the fight at one point.
Thank you for your time, Christian. That is Christian Abate finishing third and grabbing the last coin off the podium.
Yeah, indeed it is. And, well, now we turn our attention to the final round of the season, Formula Majors, the Dutch Grand Prix. It's going to be taking place on November 9th and 10th. Lynn, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be massive with that brilliant result there. You know, we're going to be seeing that championship gap close up. Who's ultimately going to come out on top?
Most likely, it's come down to two. It'll be Ross Banfield versus Christian Challenger for all the marbles, but potentially, depending on how the drop weeks work out, you could still see Dallas Pataska on the outside looking in with a chance. I've seen the formula cooking up. It's going to be very exciting trying to qualify for that event.
Oh, it certainly is. Make sure that you tune into SimSpeed TV for the Pacific region on November the 9th, and make sure on November the 9th and 10th, sorry, and make sure that you'll subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitch and Kick, and like us on Facebook as well. Make sure that you have everything updated here. Of course, this isn't over on SimSpeed today. We're going to be going almost straight to the action in V8 Scops, so make sure that you stay with us, have a little break, grab yourself a drink, something to eat maybe, and get ready for 500 Ks of V8 Supercar action at Imola coming up very shortly. I'm Reese Gardner, Lynn Kinchelow and Scott Rankin join me in the comms box today. Jay Kennedy behind the scenes here on SimSpeed TV. We'll see you next time.